Stolen Desires by Black Authors. Prologue. When Rebecca Ashford inherits her late father's crumbling Baroque estate, she's drawn into a treacherous web spun by a notorious crime boss, Alaric Devereaux. He's been sabotaging her competition for years, but his true motive is far darker. He requires her blood for his own survival. As danger lurks around every corner, Rebecca awakens to a desire that unravels her soul and binds her fate to a man who holds power over life and death. Their attraction ignites an insatiable hunger that takes them to the edge of scandal and into a world where love is the ultimate crime. Chapter 1. The Inheritance unfolds. There are moments in life that stretch and quiver like the strings of a cello, thick with memory and resonant with the craftsmanship of emotion. Standing in the parlor of my family's Baroque estate, I could almost hear those strings vibrating, an ensemble of melancholy and ambition, the perfect backdrop for the chaos that was soon to follow. Dust motes danced lazily in the golden afternoon light, filtering through the tall windows, a stark contrast to the storm swirling outside. The autumn wind rattled the shutters, casting shadows that flickered on the pale, intricate wallpaper, which whispered remnants of my father's legacy. The room felt cold, despite the sun's attempt to thaw it, a tangible chill gnawing at my skin, a warning, perhaps. I traced my fingers over the ornate table, its surface marred by years of neglect and misremembered dinners. My inheritance was more than bricks and mortar. It was a legacy laden with questions. "Rebecca," called my best friend Diane, her voice bursting through the transient silence like a confetti cannon. "You can't just stand there contemplating your life. Pick a room to explore. Maybe the one with the secrets?" She swept into the room like a gust of fresh air, her presence warm and electric. "I wish it were that easy," I replied, shaking off the trace of nostalgia mixed with dread. Behind me, Diane plopped onto the velvet settee that had belonged to my grandmother, a fictional magician conjuring a home cooked by memories both sweet and bitter. "I found this letter. It looks old," I added, my voice dropping conspiratorially as I resisted the urge to clutch the parchment to my chest. "You're going all Nancy Drew on me?" she teased, leaning forward, her curiosity palpable. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadowed entryway, cutting through our banter like a knife. Alaric Devereaux, with his raven-dark hair and those impossibly soulful brown eyes, filled the doorway with a presence that made the air shift. I had only met him days earlier, a man both formidable and enigmatic, whose casual brilliance gave him an aura of allure. He stepped into the room, and suddenly its walls felt tighter, as if he had willed them to close in. "Still sifting through family relics?" he asked, his lips turning up in that slight smile that both drew me in and made me wary. A predator might smile in the same way before striking. "Just the essentials," I replied, attempting to sound composed, my heart thumping a rebellious rhythm in my chest. Diane rolled her eyes dramatically. "Essentials? You mean dust and ghosts? That might be easier to manage than whatever you're digging up to make this estate a cultural haven." "Thank you for the vote of confidence, Diane," I said, half laughing, half exasperated. "Did I ask you to be my life coach today?" "That was definitely not on the agenda," she shot back, winking at Alaric. "But it's what friends do." Their shared amusement was a double-edged sword, neither side cutting deeper than the other. Laughter hung in the air, swirling among us like whispers meant for ears that would never hear. "Tell me about the letter," Alaric said, shifting his gaze to me, his demeanor suddenly serious. The playful banter dissipated, and I could see the hunger for truth glint in his eyes. "It's just a letter," I began weakly, suddenly aware of how trivial it sounded. "It mentions things about my father's past, things he never spoke of." Alaric took a step closer, the air thick between us. "Like what?" "Just the usual family secrets. Nothing to worry your pretty little head about," I teased back, trying to reclaim some ground. "Then again, your pretty little head seems to revel in avoiding the simple truths of life." He chuckled, his breath warm against the coolness between us. "You are terribly audacious, Rebecca. I must admit, I like that about you. Diane cracked a sarcastic smile. Oh, please, spare me the romantic tension. We're all friends here. Friends? I shot back, my voice edged with mock incredulity. What kind of friends assume the worst? Friends who know better. Her eyes sparkled, mischief lacing her tone. What's it going to be, Alaric? Help or hindrance? Help, of course, he said, narrowing his gaze as if focusing on an unseen target. What's the worst that can happen? Your father's legacy crumbles further beneath old layers of dust? I grimaced, feeling the weight of his words. My father's estate was a reflection of a man I barely knew, an imprint of shadows vast enough to squeeze my heart into a tight fist. If I don't restore it, the history vanishes completely, I replied, voice soft but resolute. Are you willing to face whatever that history reveals? He asked, moving even closer, a rush of electricity sparking between us. Why do you care? Just because you like playing the hero? I challenged, crossing my arms defensively, the air thickening with unspoken tension. Perhaps, he said, tilting his head slightly, as if understanding something I had yet to grasp. Or perhaps it's the thrill of watching you fight against destiny. You bring a certain fire to this estate, Rebecca. As if on cue, a loud clap of thunder rolled overhead, shaking the very foundation of the house. Diane squealed, darting towards a corner of the room, her laughter a blend of nerves and joy. This place is going to eat us alive, she shouted. Alaric's gaze did not waver from mine, the weight of the moment pulling us into an uncomfortable silence. It was exhilarating and terrifying. Shall we fend it off together then? He asked, his voice low. I opened my mouth to speak, but was interrupted once more by the storm's ferocity. The wind howled against the windows, making the emerald green curtains sway wildly. I looked at Alaric, seeing the challenge reflected in his face. My cheeks flushed with a strange mix of fear and excitement, a siren call I couldn't ignore. We could, I whispered, a hint of rebellion in my tone. But what's in it for you, Alaric? What will you gain from dusting off the past? Perhaps I'm curious about the depths of the unknown. He stepped closer, his presence enveloping me, and perhaps I want to see what strengths lie hidden within you. My heart surged with a reckless understanding. The shadows of the estate felt alive around us, our shadows intertwining across the floorboards, battling against the elements. And if you find those strengths, what then? Then I'll be right here with you. The sincerity in his voice sent shivers racing down my spine. Is that a promise or a threat? I challenged, playful but dangerously aware of the emotion swelling between us. Does it matter? He leaned a fraction closer, the scent of cedar and something earthy trailing behind him, igniting senses that previously lay dormant. Pushing back the complex amalgam of desire and skepticism, I huffed a laugh. I suppose there's some thrill in it after all. Thrill is my middle name, Alaric? Is that how you see me? I see you as someone who hides behind righteous indignation and familial obligation. He smirked, that well-known shadow dancing across his features, a layer of protection for the poignant vulnerability below. Touché, I said, gripping the letter tightly, its rough edges digging into my palms. We are convening here with purpose. I need preparation for what's to come, and mutual distraction won't suffice. Doesn't that bode well for our next move? Alaric stepped back for the briefest moment, allowing a breath of space to slip between us. With newfound resolve, I turned towards Diane. If we're leaning into the secrets, why not leap into the heart of the storm? I want to explore the estate deeper. Who's with me? Always, Diane jumped up, her excitement contagious. Alaric raised an eyebrow but didn't speak. Besides, I continued, if there's more to uncover, I want to know it, even if it rattles foundations more than they already are. Ever the brave one, Alaric said, admiration swimming in his voice. Let's stir the pot then. As we moved deeper into the estate, the wind roared outside, urging us forward into the unknown. each room promising dark tales and lingering mysteries, but also strands of liberation. I could feel Alaric's presence just behind me, an unspoken promise of support, and the thrill of something far more electrifying than just secrets buried in old papers. The storm outside mirrored our fervor to unveil the tangled fabric of our lives, a thrill both exhilarating and dangerous. With every step I took, my heartbeat drummed an anthem of anticipation. What would we find? What would change? More than that, it made me question, how much of myself was I willing to confront in the shadows of old legacies, and would love prove more tempestuous than the storm outside? "I hope you know you're walking into a hurricane," Alaric called playfully from the rear. "Good," I shouted back with a smile, the air crackling with possibility. I could use a little chaos. Chapter 2: Electric First Encounter. The old oak doors creaked as I pushed them open, the balmy breeze swirling around me like the heady scent of fresh earth and wild lavender. Sunlight dappled through the trees, painting the weathered cobblestones in shifting patterns, and I could hear the distant chirp of crickets and the rustle of leaves whispering secrets to one another in the gentle afternoon air. My father's estate, once vibrant with laughter and art, lay dormant beneath a film of dust and abandoned dreams. Each step I took felt weighted by history, a journey to restore, to revive, perhaps even to reclaim. He arrived shortly after, and the air shifted. The rumble of his car engine died away, replaced by the subtle scrape of shoes against gravel. As I turned to face him, the late afternoon light framed his stunning figure, tall, imposing, and exuding an air of command. That first moment was charged, almost electric, and I could hardly breathe as I took him in. Alaric Devereaux, the man who had come to inspect my father's estate, with the same casual arrogance one might display while flipping through an antique catalogue. Gazing at him from across the courtyard, I tried to gather my composure. "You're early," I said, forcing nonchalance into my tone, though my heart raced. His eyes, dark and profound, held a flicker of mischief that made my stomach churn. "Am I?" He walked towards me, a predatory grace in his gait that almost made it feel dangerous. "I thought punctuality was a virtue." He paused, stealing a moment to survey the estate, his gaze settling on the ivy climbing the left wall, more lively than the rotted, crumbling bricks behind. And virtue, it seems, can be in short supply around here. I felt something ignite within me, irritation perhaps, though it felt tinged with something different, something both exhilarating and terrifying. Or a sign that you don't truly understand what this place means. He peered at me, amusement sparking behind those dark eyes. "And what does it mean to you, Rebecca?" "It means restoration," I replied, the twinge of urgency rising in my throat. "It means rebirth, an opportunity to make art live again." His lips curled upward, an enigmatic smile that danced just shy of a laugh. "Or an endless cycle of putting back together that which is forever unraveling," he said quietly. There was an authority in his voice that I found unnervingly captivating, as if he were both something and nothing at once. I blinked at him, momentarily speechless. This wasn't how I intended this meeting to unfold. In most scenarios, I held the upper hand, a scholar versed in the history of others, the past held in my palm like an open book. I hadn't expected such challenge from a stranger who only arrived to appraise my father's legacy. "And what do you think you can truly offer?" I went on, gathering my resolve. "This estate has seen drought along with its bursts of glory. I would presume you operate on the premise that success follows only those in darkened suits with charming smiles." "Charming?" He arched an eyebrow. "Funny, I would have thought I made some enemies for my lack of it." "Enemies are made by those who are too skilled, or perhaps too careless. I prefer a world where 'I'll play it safe' isn't part of the equation," he replied, his voice low, thickening the air between us. It's how you end up getting stuck in place. Some of us are content to tread carefully, I shot back, my heart suddenly thundering in my chest. There was something about his confidence, the precision in his speech, that sent shivers through me, awakening the dormant ambitions that lay beneath the surface of day-to-day struggles. Is that so? He stepped closer, invading my space with ease, an island of heat amid the cool summer day. What would you have me do? Hold your hand while you walk through your late father's mess. I didn't invite you to absolve me of my responsibilities, I answered, though his proximity stirred an unwelcome rush of heat beneath my skin. The scent of his cologne, rich and earthy, with a hint of smoke, wrapped around me like an embrace. And yet here I am, Rebecca. There was a challenge in his voice, a thread of something more than mere rivalry, a kind of intense energy that ebbed and flowed, electrifying the air between us. You could use my help. I could use many things, Alaric, but I'm not one to depend on anyone. Dependence is a tricky web, isn't it? He interrupted, a shadow flitting across his expression. How long before it becomes suffocating? How long before you yield your power? Just because you come to play the White Knight doesn't mean I'm in need of saving, I shot back, the words sharper than intended, a vulnerability exposed. I shifted my weight, desperate to find steadiness among the tumult. Perhaps, he considered, or perhaps your ideals are just that, distant thoughts woven into the fabric of your delightful stubbornness. I inhaled sharply, feeling something raw surge within me, a mix of defiance and undeniable attraction. If you think I'm some helpless damsel, then you truly underestimate who I am, I retorted, crossing my arms defiantly. Damsels don't tend to have such impressive estates or the ambition to restore their family's legacies. I see you as a fascinating paradox, he replied, eyes narrowing, reflecting a glint of amusement against the shadows of his past endeavors. That's an intriguing compliment, coming from a man shrouded in mystery and well-practiced secrets. His smile faded, the levity of the moment shifting into something more turbulent. Those in my world don't hold many secrets to be proud of. What world is that? The one built on others' fears? He stepped back, folding his arms. A world where we choose what to reveal and when to deliver it, always with intent. Seems we're both playing a game. The pause lingered, thick and palpable, each word a drop of ink staining the page with tension. My gaze held his, defiant yet vulnerable. The attraction was an undercurrent, drawing me closer yet warning me of the perils that lay ahead. Life is a series of choices, isn't it? He mused, breaking the silence, yet we both felt the charge to hold our ground. A compelling tension simmering like the brewing storm overhead. And yet sometimes it feels like each choice makes new chains, I countered, unable to ignore the voice of my own trepidation. It depends on who holds the key, he replied smoothly, consciously avoiding the emotion that flickered behind my eyes. The storm clouds loomed closer now, thickening the air and reminding us of the world beyond this encounter. So tell me, Alaric, do you hold the key? I challenged, my breath caught in my throat as the unanticipated chemistry threatened to unravel me. He hesitated, that same smirk reappearing, cocked and curious. I might, Rebecca, but the real question is if you're ready to temper the flames your passion might stir. Our gaze tangled once more, loaded with meaning, charged with the tempest that surrounded us. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, probably to remind him I was not the type to back down, the sky overhead unleashed a sudden deluge. Rain began to pour in sheets, tangling our thoughts, shrouding us in chaos and laughter. Well, this is a dramatic turn of events, I said, trying to mask the pulse of adrenaline flooding through me. Maybe we should take cover? Maybe you should consider a little adventure, he replied, the glint back in his eyes, brilliant and challenging as the rain drummed on the cobblestones. Adventure or mere distraction? He stepped closer, the downpour swirling around us. I prefer to think of it as a change in perspective. Care to seize it? With that, he took my hand, weaving through the raindrops as we dashed for the nearest alcove, and the world around us blurred into an exhilarating dance of possibilities. I felt the warmth of his presence eclipsing the cold moisture seeping through our clothes, the thrill of shared adrenaline igniting a fire within, something I had not anticipated or prepared for at all. What began as a mere inspection now transformed before me, alive with potential, a furtive leap into the unknown. The storm raged on, but somehow in that sanctuary of confined space, beneath wings of the grand architecture of my past, a spark ignited between us, amidst a storm I could never fully predict. "Rebecca," he ventured, in the fading echoes of laughter mingled with rain, "do you believe in fate?" "Fate is for those who can't grasp reality," I shot back, though my voice trembled on the edge of discovery. But there, against the cries of the storm, I might have believed just a little too much. Drawn in by the enigma that stood beside me, compelling and richly layered, igniting a question I hadn't thought to ask. If only I dared delve deeper. Somewhere, nestled in the corners of my mind, the memories of the last week spiraled, where workmen had mysteriously vanished, equipment had been tampered with, and most unnervingly, plans for the grand reopening of my father's beloved estate had thrice been disrupted by strange accidents. I brushed my fingers over a pile of fabric swatches, the rich brocade and vibrant silk reminding me of what I had envisioned. An artful haven, a sanctuary, but then my thoughts bubbled over with the recent chaos. Every complex layer of paint and fabric hexagonated my growing frustration. What was happening? Who was sabotaging me? Was it madness to think it could be Alaric? Even the slightest suggestion felt like a betrayal. The warmth of his laugh, the depths of his gaze, twisted into something sinister. A rumbled knock disrupted my thoughts. I had half a mind to ignore it, wishing for solitude to quiet the storm in my head. But curiosity prevailed. He had that effect on me. He churned up my emotions until they danced on a precarious edge. I opened the door to find Alaric standing there, fit to command attention, tousled hair framing his intense eyes like wild, tempestuous waves. "Rebecca," he said, allowing the name to linger in the air, rich with his deep timbre. "What do you want?" I snapped, a touch harsher than intended. A teasing smirk cracked his facade, but it fell quickly, replaced with something softer. "I came to check on you. Heard the reopening was postponed again." A tilt of my head marked my silent derision. "No thanks to some mysterious circumstances that defy explanation. You'd think Havoc was my middle name." I stepped aside, inviting him in with a curt motion before shutting the door behind him. "Nothing I heard was of your doing," he replied, leaning against my desk, that brooding intensity of his growing, even amidst the levity I tried to inject into my words. "You know I'd never sabotage your efforts. I want you to succeed. Yet it feels like everything around here is crumbling, Alaric. Your timing, your interest, it's all rather convenient," I said, my voice steady, despite the knowledge of the turmoil between us. "Convenient? Or perhaps destiny has a sense of humor." His lips curled with a hint of mischief, but I could hear a deeper note of sincerity beneath it. "Destiny doesn't go around breaking things and keeping people from doing what they love," I challenged, folding my arms tightly to anchor myself in this interaction that was becoming increasingly electric. A pulse of silence filled the space between us, pregnant with unspoken truths, and I could feel the intensity wrap around us as he stepped forward, closing the distance. Our breaths mingled, each inhaled scent of paint and varnish merging with the allure of his cologne, a dark cedar that thinly veiled mystery and intimacies I hadn't dared to acknowledge. "Be careful what you say, Rebecca," he warned, the softness in his voice belied by the careful way he studied me, his gaze almost weighing my resolve. Sometimes people hide behind the shadows when they have something worth fighting for. "And you're sure it's worth it? If it comes at the expense of my dreams?" "Dreams can be warped. Sometimes reality is what sets you free, he said, shifting closer, the magnetic pull too potent to resist. Is that what you believe? That you could save me? The corner of his mouth lifted, but it was a rueful smile. It's never about saving. Sometimes it's just about sharing the burden. Perhaps it was the vulnerability in his voice, or the raw honesty in those dark eyes. But I felt something within me draw closer, even as the walls around my heart tightened. The intimacy of the moment crackled with an undeniable energy, a current surging beneath the rubble of our misunderstandings. I don't think I trust you, I whispered, half terrified by the way the admission twisted in my gut. He took a breath, as if grabbing that trust would change everything. I had my reasons for what I did. There are layers to this place, and to us, Rebecca. You'll understand it all soon. Then, summoning a sudden burst of audacity, I pushed on my tiptoes to plant my lips against his. It was an impulsive move, fraught with tension, a declaration of some hidden need within me. For a fleeting moment, the world around us receded, until we were two imperfect souls colliding in this canvas of chaos. The kiss deepened, his mouth moving gently against mine, awakening something I had not known could exist. Not just warmth, but a fire that flickered at my core, lighting up the corners of my heart, long left in darkness. Desire surged, rich and raw, woven through the very essence of who we were, igniting my senses. But as quickly as it started, clarity returned. Baking heat clashed with the icy recognition of what hung in the air. I broke away, breathless. Confusion played across my face as his gaze searched mine, dark and earnest. "There are things in my life that you don't know," I blurted out, still leaning against the desk, grounding myself against the whirlpool of feelings battling inside. "Things that make trusting you," I faltered, "difficult." "I could say the same," he replied, his expression shifting from passion to gravity, weighing the truths between us. "Trust is a two-way street. Just know, I'll always protect what's important to me." "And what is that?" I countered, more curious than accusative. "You are," he met my gaze unapologetically. "But what you're building here," he gestured to the chaos around, "I want to see it thrive. I've taken steps to help you in ways you may not realize." "Help or hinder?" I snapped back, frustration swirling within me like the chaos we were both entangled in. "Do you think I'm sabotaging you?" His brow furrowed, an edge of hurt woven into his tone. "I promise, Rebecca, I'm not the villain of this story." "Then why is a painted signature appearing on the back of damaged doors leading to your name? Please explain that," I demanded, my heart hammering in my chest, fighting for its own version of what was real. A silence stretched, heavy with the implication of mistrust, each word resonating against the tension that crackled in the air. He looked away, if only for a moment, fear flickering across his face before we returned to each other, the intensity boiling between us. Catching my breath, I pushed off the desk, conscious of the charged space around us. "You can't do this, Alaric, not when I'm risking everything." "And so am I," he replied resolutely, stepping forward once more, his presence an unyielding force that challenged me. "You're worth fighting for, whether you believe it or not." "I need to know the truth," I whispered, almost pleading, a vulnerability weaving its way back into the moment. "I promise you, every choice I've made was one step towards revealing it." And as he spoke, I felt the undeniable truth in his words, intertwine with the shadows of doubt. He took a slow step away, a distance I wasn't ready to permit, and I realized that our world had begun to tilt at unsteady angles. It was a precarious balance of emotions, raw, indescribable, ripe with the promise of danger. "Let me find out who's really behind this," I said finally. "I won't hold back. I refuse to let this estate or you become another casualty in this treacherous game." His eyes darkened with something fierce and unyielding. "Then you'd better be prepared for the storm that follows, Rebecca. We might not survive it together." I took a deep breath, steadiness forming in the pit of my stomach. But we might, Alaric. We just might. And in that moment, amidst the chaos that had already formed our beginnings, I allowed the heat of desire to mingle with the promise of awakening reality, a bitter elixir that could either liberate us or shatter everything once again. As the day stretched before us, uncertain and fraught, I met his gaze head-on. Then let's see what's truly at stake. Chapter 4. A Meeting of Secrets. Are you sure it's safe to meet here? The words slipped from my lips before I could rein them in, a flicker of worry embedded beneath my feigned nonchalance. We were in the back room of a dimly lit cafe, its wooden surfaces darkened with years of coffee stains and whispered conversations. The air was thick with the rich scent of brewing espresso, mingling with the distant sound of clinking cups and muffled laughter. Yet all I could focus on was the looming presence of Alaric, tempestuous, magnetic, and impossibly close. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled in front of him, a half-smile curling at the corners of his mouth. Safe? Depends on your definition. But then again, you've always been one for danger, haven't you, Rebecca? I shifted in my seat, urgency thrumming through me in waves, stealing the air from my lungs. This isn't about me, I replied, surprising myself with the heat in my voice as I felt something shift. The intimacy crystallizing between us. The way his name felt on the tip of my tongue sent an electric jolt through my senses. Right, because I'm not the one who's taken on a war zone disguised as a project to save a crumbling estate, he countered, tilting his head slightly, his dark eyes narrowing with curiosity. And what a delightful war zone it is! I could feel the muscles in my jaw tightening. Look, I came here to do what, exactly? His tone was playful, yet there was an undercurrent of challenge that felt like fire licking at my skin. To confront me? To seem clarity on the shady world you stumbled into? Thoughts jumbled in my mind like letters in a crossword. My pulse quickened. A dare, a challenge, an invitation. I want to know the truth about what's happening with your illness. Saying the word felt like rolling a stone uphill, heavy, fraught with potential consequence. Alaric's gaze darkened, and for a brief moment I caught a glimpse of something raw, something jagged, intersecting with his usual bravado. That's the kind of talk best reserved for a more private gathering, don't you think? What could be more private than this? I gestured broadly, as if to encompass the cramped space, torn between discomfort and intrigue. It feels like I'm trapped in your secretive world, and I'm getting dizzy trying to keep up. He leaned closer, the smell of his cologne a fresh burst of cedar and spice curling around me like a fog. Trapped? You're here by choice, Rebecca. I wouldn't have it any other way. My heart raced, caught between terror and exhilaration. Choice? I echoed, my voice barely above a whisper. Or manipulation? Touché. He smiled, but the intensity of his gaze softened, a flicker of vulnerability slicing through the tension. But there's no manipulation when the knife is already in your hand. You choose how to wield it. I bit my lip, absorbing the implications, my mind wrestling with the complexities wrapped around us. 1,000 questions clawed at my insides, but all I could manage was, "What do you need from me?" Alaric paused, the weight of his response thrumming in the air, a lingering silence filled with unsaid secrets and unbroken boundaries. It's not what I need, it's what we could achieve together. His voice dropped, each syllable a silhouette painted in darkness. Your blood holds more than you know. My breath caught, the phrase hanging between us like a taut wire. You're talking about something else entirely? An ailment, he replied, the gravity in his voice anchoring our conversation. A curse, really, a rare condition that requires blood from someone who carries the same. Why me? The question blurted out before I could think it through, wonder and fear intertwined. Because you're the only one who can help. I didn't choose you. Life did. I stuttered, the rush of emotions overlapping like a cacophony of sirens. That's absurd. Is it? His penetrating stare didn't falter. We live in a world of absurdities, Rebecca. Your ambitions, my secrets. We're both trying to survive, just on different battlefields. The air thickened with tension, and I felt my defenses crumbling. And you think dragging me deeper into yours will help? Alaric's voice was low and sultry. I think it could save us both. The word save echoed through my mind, an alluring specter dancing between our truths. There's so much at stake, I murmured. Precisely why we should go all in. He leaned forward, the distance between us dissipating like mist before the dawn. Trust me, Rebecca. I barely know you, I protested, but even as I said the words, the pull of his magnetism enveloped me, igniting a yearning that blinded all logic. Then let me show you. His fingertips grazed along the edge of my wrist, sparking warmth wherever he touched, and I felt the urge to lean in closer, compelled by something deeper, something instinctual. A sound from the doorway startled us. Maya, my closest friend, stepped into the room, her exuberance instantly filling the space with liveliness. There you are! I've been looking everywhere for you! Alaric snapped back, an enigmatic smile in place, a glint of mischief in his eyes. We were having a private conversation, Maya. Perhaps you should come back later. Oh no, I insist on crashing this party. The sparkle in her dark eyes was undeniable, and it made me glad for the distraction, even as it broke the spell. You sure know how to make an entrance. I laughed, the tension easing as I leaned back, more than ready to recalibrate to my friend's jovial spirit. Maya's gaze flickered from me to Alaric, curiosity blazing in her expression. Wouldn't dream of missing this. Her demeanor shifted slightly, her protective instincts on high alert. But do tell me, Alaric, why are you keeping my best friend cooped up here? A flicker of tension reverberated between Alaric and Maya, shades of possession threading subtly through their dynamic. Yet delight danced in the interplay. Just an exchange of ideas, he replied smoothly, yet something low and dangerous hissed in the air, as if a distant storm was raging just out of sight. Exchange seems a bit one-sided. Maya stepped forward, arms crossed, an audacious challenge blooming in her voice. Rebecca has enough on her plate without getting tangled in your web. What if I told you she was more than capable of freeing herself? Alaric shot back, an indulgent grin hanging on the edges of his words. I think she can manage a few secrets. Maya huffed, eyeing me like an ode to her intuition. Why is it always secrets? Can't anyone have a straightforward chat these days? Secrets make the game more entertaining, Alaric responded, raising an eyebrow, the tension thickening again between us. Oh, please, Maya scoffed, rolling her eyes dramatically. You might be a smooth talker, but I see through the bravado. She turned toward me, concern etched in her brow. Are you okay, Becca? Because right now I'm not thrilled with the vibe in here. I stumbled over my words, suddenly longing for the secret world Alaric had pulled me into, only to feel the sharp pang of reality slicing through. Just exploring some new ideas. Maya surveyed me, and I could feel her unwavering trust begging for explanation. If those ideas involve danger, you need to spill. Yes, Alaric interjected, the smoothness falling away just enough to prick at the edges of tension. Danger always demands its due, doesn't it? Can we not turn this into a lecture? I laughed, though a faint quiver in my voice belied my own frustrations, reflecting how close I had come to the edge of the abyss. Only if you promise to be honest about where you stand in all this, Maya insisted, her arms still crossed, her demeanor protective. I glanced back at Alaric, caught in the glowing ember of his gaze that promised unfathomable possibilities. I'm in control. It's not as risky as it seems. Maya, he interjected, now with a touch of authority. I think it's time to allow Rebecca the space to navigate her ambitions, rather than suffocating her with concern. I blinked, appreciation threading through me, though it was laced with uncertainty. There was a protective vigor in him that was both unsettling and alluring, as I grasped for the delicate balance of truth and chaos. Fine. Maya relented, eyeing Alaric warily, but also teasingly. But if she goes down in flames, I'm holding you accountable. You wouldn't want to keep the fires burning forever, would you? Alaric replied, a mischievous brightness flashing in his voice. Maya huffed playfully. Whatever keeps you entertained, I guess. The door swung open again as Sam, one of our cohort, burst in with an immense smile. Hey everyone, did I hear there's a clandestine meeting happening? And I bring gifts. He held up a suspiciously large bag, overflowing with cookies. Maya burst into laughter. Cookies, the great unifier. Before I could respond, Alaric shot me a meaningful look, a silent exchange powdered with unspoken secrets threaded through the distance between our electric postures. Come on, who would turn down cookies? Sam's booming voice pulled us back, shoving away the tension and revealing the absurdity hiding beneath our secrets. Perhaps the real danger lies in overindulgence, Alaric mused, yet his smirk belied the heaviness of the moment, which had slipped into camaraderie. Have you met me? Overindulgence is my middle name, Sam laughed, pulling the bag closer. So, care to share your secrets over cookies, or should we just eat and pretend authenticity has no taste? The lightness of the room shifted again, laughter dancing like bubbles around us, calming the storm of heaviness built upon the momentum of uncertainty tethering us together. For a moment I just took it all in, the warmth of friendship, the magnetic pull of Alaric, and the very real stakes intertwining with the bliss of absurdity. But beneath it all, something deeper simmered, a longing to unravel the enigma of what lay between Alaric and me, a compulsion that both excited and terrified me. One question lingered, a shadow in the corners of my mind. What price were we willing to pay for our secrets? As I reached for a cookie, the warmth of its chocolatey goodness enveloping me, I felt the threads of our impending revelations weaving tightly among us. And even though the world outside beckoned, a relentless tide of ambition, rivalry, and danger, somehow I knew this was just the beginning. Just remember, Alaric said softly, slicing through the laughter, there are consequences to every choice we make. And as I met his gaze, electricity surged beneath the air, a connection that felt like time stretching out, even though I was trapped in a moment. Chapter 5. Claimed by Desire. The Aveline Gallery loomed before me, its cold marble facade casting an austere shadow over the chaotic art fair unfolding inside. I stepped over the threshold and was assailed by a cacophony of sounds, a blend of laughter, the rustle of silk dresses brushing against eager hands, and the hurried steps of patrons flitting from one art piece to the next. The scent of freshly popped popcorn mingled with the crisp aroma of fine wine, creating a heady blend that sent a hint of warmth through my veins. But it did little to quell the churning unease in my stomach. This night mattered. Everything I had worked for, every late night poured into research and restorations at the estate, was contingent upon my success here. My father's legacy depended on this very moment. Yet amid the colorful artworks and raucous conversations, my mind swirled restlessly, largely thanks to Alaric's presence, which was a disorienting mix of thrill and terror. As if summoned by a magnetic force, I felt his gaze before I saw him. Alaric stood at the far end of the gallery, arms crossed, his commanding figure cloaked in a tailored navy suit that accentuated his powerful frame. The way he surveyed the crowd hinted at a predatory nature beneath his composed exterior. A buzz of anticipation raced through me. "Rebecca," he said, striding toward me like a storm, ready to unleash its fury. "I see you're trying to steal the show." "I was unaware it had been put on display for the likes of you," I shot back, masking my nerves with a bravado that felt increasingly brittle. "I'm here for the art, not the theatrics." His smile was infuriatingly calm, like a predator drawing near its prey. "Ah, but you are the art, aren't you? Captivating from a distance, but better appreciated up close." A surge of warmth flooded my cheeks as I focused on the nearby sculpture, a jagged piece made of twisted metal. It was a masterpiece of chaos and confusion, much like my thoughts of Alaric. "And what do you plan to do at such a close range? Critique my viewing habits or critique life choices?" "Neither." He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a velvet whisper. I'm here to remind you what it feels like to crave something unexpected. To crave something unexpected. Irony dripped from his words. While my heart hammered at the thought, I crossed my arms defensively. You're not the first man to proselytize about desire. True, he replied, his eyes gleaming with mischief. But I may be the first to make you feel it. Just then, a group of women rushed by, their laughter loud and insistent, pulling attention away from our standoff. One of them, Felicia, my best friend, practically tackled me in greeting. "Becky, you look incredible," she gushed, tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear. Her bright yellow dress was a burst of sunshine amidst the subdued elegance of the gallery. "Have you seen the new pieces? They're stunning. Oh, and did you know Alaric is here?" She feigned surprise, glancing back at him. "Guess he can't resist outshining me," I replied, striving for nonchalance even as my insides churned at Alaric's proximity. Felicia shot me a knowing look, her eyes darting between us. "You two have an electrifying tension going on. It's practically tangible. Just kiss, will you?" I sputtered a laugh, the absurdity of it bringing a momentary lightness. "Perhaps after I secure a grant for the estate." Alaric stepped closer, his presence enveloping me. "I can assure you, this tension won't dissipate with a mere kiss." "Good," Felicia chimed in, "because I can't bear to miss the drama." "Neither can I," Alaric replied, his eyes now fixed on me with an intensity that made my pulse race. "Rebecca, promise me you'll carve your path without fear. It's far more exquisite than art." "What's exquisite is a cruel joke wrapped in charm," I said, meeting the distraction from the storm brewing in his eyes. "What do you want?" "Everything," he stated simply, a gravity to his voice that made my heart quicken. "Let's find a quieter place to discuss how we'll conquer your ambitions. The gallery is an illusion, much like your fear of discovering what you really want." My breath hitched. "This isn't just about ambition. Then let's address the passion too." He arched an eyebrow, challenging me directly. I turned to Felicia. She was the embodiment of mischief, her eager expression reflecting a desire to witness this unfolding drama. "This isn't a romance novel, Alaric. Would you prefer it as a thrilling crime saga?" He leaned in further, the warmth of his breath grazing my ear. "I promise an exhilarating ride." "I'd settle for staying out of jail," I shot back, laughing nervously. "Ah, but that's where the real excitement lies," he teased. "Besides, I have everything under control. Or at least I will, if you let me guide you." "Fine," I relented, emboldened by our banter. "Let's talk, and steer the ship to safer waters, away from prying eyes." His smile widened, revealing a glimpse of something, not just ambition, but a sincere desire deepening the dynamics. "After you." We made our way through the crowded gallery, slipping past throngs of art patrons and artists, until we arrived at a more secluded corner, away from prying eyes and ears. "So," I began as the distance closed between us, "what's your grand strategy for an art historian looking to repurpose a family estate into a cultural haven?" "Taking control," he replied, closing the gap between us until the chaos of the art fair faded into a distant hum. "First, we assert dominance over your rivals." "Isn't that a little extreme?" I asked hesitantly, although I felt a thrill at the notion. "Sometimes you must break the rules to create a masterpiece," he countered, his voice laced with urgency that sent jolts of adrenaline coursing through me. "Or else you fall into the abyss," I fired back, my heart racing. "A worthy risk." He stepped closer, inches from me now, the air thick with connection and tension. "Isn't that what we crave? Beneath ambitions and desires, the need to exist unabashedly?" My pulse quickened, the heat radiating between us, igniting a mixture of fear and exhilaration. "And when the inevitable tempest hits, then we stand firm, together." His gaze bore into mine, a promise woven in sincerity. "Together," I repeated, feeling the weight of the word. It resonated with unfamiliar intensity, echoing my fears and reviving my aspirations all at once. "I can help you reclaim your narrative, Rebecca," he said, his voice dropping to a velvet whisper. "Beyond all the chaos, I inhaled, allowing the moment to linger, a taut string ready to snap at the slightest touch. And what's in it for you? You already know, don't you? Alaric took a step closer, a roguish grin playing on his lips. You're the spark that fanned the flames. I need more than you think. To survive, to thrive. A shard of vulnerability danced in his gaze, compelling me to explore what lay beneath his bravado. Curiosity nudged at the edges of my mind. You want me to be the match to your kindling? Precisely. You're the missing piece in my puzzle. For a heartbeat, my defenses wavering, I felt drawn to him. And if I refuse? Then we drown in oblivion, lost to shadows of unfulfilled desires. Charming, I remarked, raising an eyebrow, yet my heart raced at the thought of what we could accomplish together. He stepped even closer, a mere breath separating us. Charming? Perhaps I'm merely a man craving connection, a profound one. I'm not merely a vessel for your desires, Alaric. I have my own ambitions to chase. Ambitions tend to bloom in the presence of desire, he teased, the corners of his mouth twitching. Is that so? I riposted, the spark of challenge igniting my resolve. And is that your way of taking hold of others? Only the ones worth investing in, he breathed, leaning in so close that the warmth emanating from him became a palpable force. And for you, Rebecca, I'll break my rules. In that heartbeat of vulnerability, my composure trembled dangerously close to shattering. Rules are made to be broken. And what if breaking them means embracing everything you fear? Before I could answer, he closed the distance, capturing my gaze with his, deep pools that reflected both darkness and depth. Shall we risk it, Rebecca? With every ounce of courage, despite every convincing argument to pull away, I found myself leaning in, as if our desires created a gravitational pull too powerful to resist. In that moment, everything crystallized, sealing unspoken promises between us. It wasn't merely a kiss, it was stormy, full of yearning and challenge, pressing against the boundaries of our ambitions and fears. And in the chaos of the art fair, as the voices swirled around us and the lights twinkled like distant stars, the world blurred into the background, leaving only Alaric and me clinging to something far more than either of us had ever anticipated. Together, then, I murmured against his lips, a vow and a plea. Together, Rebecca, he whispered back, sealing the pact of what was to come, an unpredictable journey of ambition and desire, intertwined with a love that dared to conquer all. Chapter 6. Secrets of the Past. Rain beat against the tall windows of the gallery like an insistent lover, its rhythm relentless and unyielding. The dim glow of the hanging lights illuminated the rich hues of the paintings around me, colors swirling like my thoughts, maroon, indigo, lurking shadows that whispered secrets. Each droplet racing down the glass felt like a pulse, a heartbeat echoing the storm brewing inside. I stood in the heart of the Ashford estate, every inch of the air thick with tension and the unmistakable scent of wet earth. Alaric's absence had become a tangible weight, his electric presence lingering like a distant thunderclap that promised, what? Danger? Desire? I didn't know, but today, as storm clouds loomed outside, I was determined to unravel the tangled web he'd spun around me. I wasn't merely Rebecca Ashford, the woman charged with restoring her father's legacy. Right now, I was also a detective, hunting the truth behind Alaric's veiled intentions. Are you going to stare at that painting all day? A familiar voice teased, breaking the spell of my thoughts. Miriam strolled in, her own fervent energy lighting up the dreary room like a burst of sunshine. Her wild curls bounced as she moved, casting off raindrops like confetti. You've been at it for half an hour. I thought you were going to actually start working on the estate today. I gestured to the sprawling canvas of a landscape, vibrant and chaotic. I am working. This piece was done by my father's friend, an artist overshadowed by history. I was trying to learn why his vision matters, but honestly, I've been thinking about Alaric. Miriam raised an eyebrow, smirking. Ah yes, the infamous enigma. I'm surprised your heart hasn't launched a full-on commando mission with that much thinking. Very funny, I said, but a laughter bubbled up despite my earnest pursuit for the truth. I need to know more about him. What drives him? Why he's so intent on keeping me close. It feels like I'm trapped, and not just by the allure. Or enchanted. Her teasing tone was edged with mock seriousness, but I could see the concern in her eyes. Doesn't he make you feel alive? Alive, I echoed, and the weight of the word burrowed under my skin, igniting a strange urgency. Or maybe it's just turmoil. Alaric has a way of pulling me in, causing ripples in everything I thought I knew. Miriam crossed her arms, leaning back against the wall, casting an approving glance at the gallery's reflection in the window. You could always ask him directly. Nice and bold, right? Bold? I laughed, the sound carrying through the stillness. More like reckless. How do I confront someone who wraps himself in layers of secrets like fine silk? Besides, I hesitated, my mind swirling with memories of our heated moments. His warm breath against my ear. What if he doesn't like what he hears? There's power in vulnerability, she replied, and the way she said it resonated deep within me. The man is a wild card, but you're no stranger to danger, Rebecca. Dive in. What do you have to lose? I turned back to the painting, letting the colors wash over me, searching for wisdom hidden beneath their surface. All at once, I found my resolve. Tonight I would seek answers. I would lay the foundations for an understanding between us, whatever it cost. Just then, the ringing of my phone sliced through the air, and I snatched it off the table. Alaric's name lit up the screen, a jolt fluttering through my chest. I answered, my voice carrying the weight of 1,000 unsaid words. Rebecca, he said, his voice smooth with an undercurrent of urgency, I need to see you. Now. I'm busy, I replied, trying to keep my tone stable, concealing the rush of excitement coursing through me. I'm working on the estate. There was a pause at the other end, a tension that could fracture glass. This can't wait. Meet me at the silver room. 10 minutes. What's happening? I asked, shadows of unease stirring in the pit of my stomach. It's a matter of importance, he said, his tone low and serious. An unusual twist of worry laced his words. Just come. Fine. I knew I wouldn't just be stepping into an elegant restaurant. No, I was heading into the eye of the storm. The silver room radiated a palpable energy, with sleek tables adorned in crisp white linens and chandeliers casting a warm amber glow. But the tempest within me made the place feel more like a ticking clock than a sanctuary. I spotted Alaric at a corner table, his back straight, the crease of his tailored jacket accentuating broad shoulders. He looked up as I approached, his expression a mix of tension and something deeper, something that made my pulse quicken against the ever-clattering backdrop of glass and laughter. Rebecca, he breathed as I took a seat, his smoky gaze sliding over me. You came. Not without trepidation, I replied, feeling the mounting crackle of electric proximity. What's so urgent? He leaned in, a faint scent of sandalwood, tainted by the sharpness of cedar wafting toward me. There are things you need to know about me, about why I've been, well, entangled with your life. And I'm guessing this isn't just a coincidence, I urged. A rush of irritation brewed inside, my heart clamoring for clarity. You've been keeping me in the dark, Alaric. He tilted his head, a flicker of amusement breaking his stoic facade. You put your heart into a gallery. You might find art more revealing than you think. And you cover yourself in shadows, I shot back. What do you want from me? Not just what I want, what I need. His voice was edged with raw intensity, and I could feel the weight of his words hang thick in the air between us. Have you ever wondered what drives someone like me? How easy it is to lose yourself in the darkness? I'm beginning to question everything I thought I knew about you, I said, my emotions unspooling in waves I couldn't contain. You make me feel alive, yes, but you also terrify me. Fear can be intoxicating, he said, leaning even closer. Our breaths intertwined, the world fading around us. You see me for who I am, but I'm not the only one keeping secrets. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing against mine, a simple gesture that ignited something wild and fierce within me, fizzling like a firework about to explode. I don't want to be down this path of ambiguity, I murmured, feeling breathless. But if you're going to play with fire, then we'll both need to get burned. With a quick motion, he rang for the waiter, ordering a drink, while the tension shifted in the air, filling our conversation with heavy, expectant silence. You're playing a dangerous game, Rebecca. As are you, I countered, my heart thundering as the waiter returned with our glasses. Let's not forget whom you've entangled yourself with. Our eyes locked, each flicker filled with a burgeoning heat. Outside, the storm raged, rain dancing like drumming fingers on the window glass. Yet right here, right now, it felt like we were at the eye of a gathering cyclone. You think you can handle me? His voice was soft, teasing, a far cry from the predatory tension I sensed in his very being. I've handled worse, I shot back, emboldened by the intimate charge between us. Are you sure? He asked, a challenge twisting his lips. In that charged moment, I leaned forward, matching his intensity. Why don't you show me then? And just like that, the world melted away. His fingers slid over my wrist, tracing warm lines of daring, pulling me closer. I could feel whispers from the fabric of our lives, unraveling as the mundane fell heavily behind us. This was a turning point, a reckoning, where nothing would taste the same afterward. And if I do, he murmured, his breath tantalizingly close, then you'll truly know the man behind the shadows. I suppose that's worth the risk, I responded, leaning in until our foreheads touched, breathing each other in, wrapped in the fire of something that felt dangerously real. And it was that moment, the very fabric of my being, unknowingly weaving around his, when I realized that whether we fell or soared, I would never be the same again. Welcome to my world, Rebecca, Alaric said, just a whisper before sealing the distance between us, with a kiss that felt as though we were both lost and found within it, launching into the delicious unknown of everything we had yet to discover. The dark edges around us began to blur, igniting a spark that promised adventures, chaos, and revelations, secrets of the past yearning to be dissected. We could conquer it all, or we could drown. But either way, the dance had begun. Chapter 7. Danger from Within. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? The words hung in the air like a finely woven tapestry, simultaneously beautiful and suffocating. I stood in the sun-drenched living room of my father's estate, the scent of fresh paint mingling with the musk of aged wood. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, illuminating the chaos. Blueprints strewn across the floor, paint cans huddled together like reluctant conversations, and the clamor of my renovation dreams about to unravel. Across from me, Nina crossed her arms, her expression a tight knot of defiance and disappointment. I was saving you from making a mistake, she shot back, the bite in her tone sharper than any of the chisels scattered around. You're too focused on turning this place into some gallery for your father's ghosts. And feeding your ambition, I interjected, my voice steady, despite the tempest brewing inside me. Is that it? Your jealousy motivates you to sabotage everything I'm trying to build here? She took a step closer, the floral notes of her perfume stabbing at my senses. You're blinded by your ambitions, Rebecca. You can't see that Alaric is using you. This isn't about him, I insisted, though I felt my resolve crumbling like the old plaster in the walls around us. You've always been the one who wanted to take me down a notch because you can't stand the idea of me succeeding. Not that way, she shouted, her voice echoing through the gaps in the high ceilings. He has his own agenda. The pulse of vehemence in her voice rushed over me like cold water. The silence that followed was heavy enough to carve out space between us, stretching for what felt like minutes. I could hear the distant chirping of birds in the garden, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within our fragile friendship. Say something, Nina demanded, her eyes flashing dangerously. Or are you just going to stand there and let your precious night save you from your own stupidity? I pressed my lips together, fighting the tears pooling just beneath the surface. Nina may have seen Alaric as a knight, but she didn't see the shadows I knew lurked beneath the surface. You don't understand him, I finally murmured, feeling the weight of her disbelief. Her scoff pierced through my words like a dart. I think I understand him just fine. He's an opportunist. You're betting everything on a man whose motives might not be as noble as you believe. And there it was, seeds of doubt unwelcomed and clawing at my chest. As much as I wanted to dismiss her concerns, they gnawed at me, taunting me with uncertainty. Did I really know Alaric? This potent mix of attraction and danger left me breathless, straddling the line between exhilaration and dread. "Get out," I whispered, the command slipping past my lips like ash. Nina blinked in shock. "Rebecca, just leave me alone," I spat, my voice unyielding, while the tangle of betrayal spiraled through my mind like wildfire. She turned on her heel, storming out, her frustration radiating like heat from a furnace, leaving me with the sudden silence of the empty room. The only sound that accompanied my tumultuous thoughts was the gentle creaking of the old house, architecture that had seen better days, much like our friendship. Moments later, I felt a shift in the atmosphere, a pulse that made my heart race. Alaric entered the space, cutting through the stillness. He took one look at my expression and stepped forward, all intensity and captivating energy. "What happened?" "Nina thinks she knows me," I said, trying to hold together the cracks that begged for release. "She thinks you know me too. She thinks we're somehow tainted." The breath I exhaled came out jagged, caught between anger and fear. Alaric's gaze darkened, a storm brewing behind his eyes. "And what do you think?" he asked, stepping closer, his presence like an electric current. "I think maybe she's right about you," I admitted, my voice barely a whisper, trembling between truth and desperation. "Maybe you are different, but I can't shake the feeling that you're hiding something. I've seen you manipulate Alaric. You're not just a knight in shining armor. You, Rebecca," he cut me off, the intensity of his voice momentarily halting the world around us. "I need you to trust me. I'm trying to protect you." I don't, I interjected, the weight of anxiety cramping my throat. "You had nothing to do with Nina, but do I need to protect myself from you now?" His eyes darkened further, an impenetrable depth, as though layers were peeling away, revealing an undercurrent of vulnerability that made me shiver. "I'd never hurt you," he said, and his words bled sincerity. "What you see, it's all tangled up. But this," he gestured to the estate, to the very heart of my dream. "This is more than just construction. It's about rebirth, Rebecca. You and I." "And you," I murmured, clenching my fists, wishing I could feel guilt instead of fear. "You're torn between wanting me and needing me." "Now you're getting to it," he replied, a crooked smile tugging at his mouth that smoldered with allure. "I want you, all of you. But this world, He paused, a foreboding shadow crossing his features. "It can create monsters, and sometimes I feel like I've become one." "Alaric." I took a step toward him, desperate. "What have you done?" "I protect those I care about. You should know that by now." His stare pierced through the silence that encased us, the weight of his words hanging like a blade suspended between us. The air thickened, charged with the tension of emotions. The ground beneath my feet trembled. Every word, every gesture felt like a dance of destiny, propelling us towards some unavoidable conclusion. "You can't keep me in the dark," I said fiercely, unable to ignore the intensity swirling between us, a magnetic pull that both terrified and exhilarated me. "Not about Nina. Not about you." Alaric stepped closer until we were mere inches apart, the world dissolving into a backdrop of our escalating tension. "Then let me show you," he said, his voice a low rumble tinged with something primal. Before I could respond, he reached out, cupping my face in his large, warm hand. The solidity of his touch radiated heat through my chilled skin, igniting an old, familiar fire deep in my belly. "You want honesty?" His voice dropped to a gravelly whisper. "You might not like what you discover." His lips crashed against mine, bold and ravenous, erasing the space between us in a sudden flash of truth. It was pulsing, demanding, and I melted into him instinctively, the worries of our conversation evaporating under the heat of desire. I wrapped my arms around his neck, desperately diving into that kiss, releasing the pent-up fear and jealousy that had knotted my stomach. The roughness of his hands explored my back, drawing me closer as if we were two souls fated to collide. When we finally broke apart, our breaths mingled in the charged atmosphere. "You make me feel," I gasped, our foreheads touching, my heart racing faster than my mind could catch up. "Feelings can be a double-edged sword," he murmured against my skin, his lips brushing a trail along my jawline, sending shivers coursing through me. "But we have to be careful, Rebecca. Careful is a luxury we can't afford." My voice quivered with uncertainty. "You know that as well as I do." His eyes narrowed, and an almost amused smile played on his lips. "Then we argue over the price we pay." Before I could counter, the door swung open again, revealing Nina's ghostly silhouette, backlit by the evening sun. I watched as her mouth hung agape, shock written across her features, and suddenly shame flushed through me, drowning in the undercurrents of my previous anger. "What is happening here?" she demanded, brow raised, self-righteousness infusing her tone. "It's not what you think," I exclaimed, instinctively stepping in front of Alaric. I hated the wave of protectiveness clashing against my sense of betrayal. "We were just about to talk." "More like kissing," she shot back. "What happened to trusting me? Doesn't seem like you're doing that very well either." Alaric's presence flared behind me, his voice low but clear. "Mina, you don't understand what's at stake here." "And you do?" she countered sharply. "You've made it very clear that relationships are just business to you." I turned, panic lying heavily on my chest. "Can we just—" "Stay out of this, Rebecca," Mina's voice sliced through. "You're throwing everything away." "Let her make her choice," Alaric said, the steel in his voice offering an unexpected quiet. What choice? I thought aloud, feeling cornered by the chaos ripping through my heart, uncertain if it belonged more to Alaric's influence or the friendship I desperately wanted to salvage. Nina's eyes sparked with fury. "A choice between your aspirations and this nonsense with him. He'll ruin you." The silence in the room spread its tendrils like vines, wrapping around us tightly. "I refuse to keep sacrificing myself because you can't bear to see me succeed," I said, locking eyes with Mina. "Success doesn't always come from pain," she shot back, but Alaric interrupted. "Pain can sharpen ambition, can't it?" His voice was cold and calculating, edged with the flare of protective instinct. Let her choose her battles, Nina. Let her figure out for herself which roads to walk." Nina opened her mouth, disbelief flooding her features, but I understood the deeper truth behind Alaric's words. Even if I didn't agree with him on the manipulation, I didn't have to be defined by the chains of expectations that pulled at me. "Nina, I need to find my way on my own," I began, but Alaric took a step forward, placing a hand on my shoulder, anchoring me. "It's time," he said quietly, "to choose who you'll trust." The weight of that choice hung heavily between us, constraints and uncertainties fracturing many paths. My heart raced in my chest, each beat hammering louder than the chaos around us. As the three of us faced one another, held in a suspended moment of tension, I realized that my decision would craft my future, not Alaric or Nina, but me. Nothing worth having comes easy, and I felt every thread of that truth binding me, tethered to the choices that awaited. "Let's talk," I finally stated, my heart leaning toward the dance of possibility. "Fine," Nina muttered, arms crossing, but I had no idea how this confrontation was truly going to unfold. Behind me, Alaric pressed a kiss to my temple, his warmth surrounding me as I faced this unraveling. "We'll figure it out." How I wished I could believe him. How I wished to preserve the sanctity of my desires, each lingering thread whispering of hopes and fears designed to hold me captive or set me free. And as I turned back to face my two allies and adversaries, I resolved to find the power beneath my own voice, and ultimately, within the depths of my own heart. Chapter 8. Vulnerability Revealed. The storm had rolled in as if summoned, its dark clouds swelling ominously like a great beast. I stood by the large bay window of the estate, my father's estate, looking out as torrents of rain lashed against the glass, each droplet trembling with static tension. Thunder growled overhead, the sound curling around my spine, igniting a peculiar mix of dread and anticipation within me. The decorum of the art world I often navigated felt far removed from the primal chaos unfolding outside. "Turn it down a notch, will you? We're not filming a horror flick here," I muttered under my breath, trying to shake off the creeping feeling of being trapped. The world outside bore little resemblance to the tranquil refuge I envisioned for this estate, my sanctuary against the shadows of my past. And yet, here I was, the memories weighing heavily as they danced in harmony with the storm. My phone buzzed on the cluttered table beside me. It was Alaric. Just seeing his name sent an electric current radiating through me. "Maybe he's the storm," I whispered, my breath hitching in my throat. He was charmingly chaotic, like thunder and lightning wrapped in an enigmatic smile. I picked up the phone, hesitating before answering. The truth was, with him, every conversation felt like a thread pulling tighter, drawing me closer into the eye of his whirlwind existence. "Rebecca," he said, his voice low and gravelly, yet laced with a warmth that wrapped around my heart like a binding vine. "Alaric, the storm. Yeah, it's quite the ruckus out there, huh? Thought I'd check in. You safe?" "Safe as I can be," I replied, though I felt far from it, as if the tempest outside echoed my internal turmoil. "What about you? You're not out there stirring up trouble, I hope." "Trouble is my specialty, but right now, I'm parked in front of the fireplace, waiting on a certain dinner invitation." "Perfect ambiance for a dinner," I quipped, despite feeling the burn of his desire cutting through my defenses like a blade. "I doubt you would get the same vibe from the thunderbolts crashing down." He chuckled, the warm sound reverberating through me, pulling me closer to the edge of something perilously exciting. "I'd say it creates an atmosphere, don't you? Stark contrasts, the fire's warmth against the storm's fury, much like us." The way he spoke, urgency wrapped around seductive undertones, sent a shiver through me. I couldn't escape the magnetic tension that wrapped around our exchanges. "What's your point, Alaric?" "Meet me in the garden," he said, the command wrapped in an undercurrent of something more vulnerable that reverberated in his tone. I hesitated, the warmth of my home a stark contrast to the violent winds roaring outside. But something within me stirred, a longing that felt undeniable, pulsating under the surface where my logical thoughts had begun to drown. "Fine," I said, tightly grasping my phone. "But if the trees come crashing down, I'm blaming you. I'll take full responsibility." As the call ended, I took a breath. How foolish was this? There was danger inherent in every encounter we shared, yet here I stood, ready to open the door to the chaos that called my name. With a small flick of my wrist, I grabbed a raincoat from the hook by the door and stepped outside. The cold air, saturated with the scent of wet earth and blooming jasmine, struck me as I opened the door. Each raindrop felt like a small shock against my skin as I stepped onto the drenched path leading to the garden. Alaric loomed under the grand oak, its branches swaying like the rhythm of hearts pounding beneath the tumultuous sky. The world was a shadowy watercolor, and his figure emerged like a painting half complete. "Alaric!" I called above the roar of thunder. As I approached, the rain soaked my coat, but all I could see was the fierce intensity in his eyes. "I thought you might not come." He stepped closer, his body releasing warmth into the cool night air. The juxtaposition sent sparks dancing between us, igniting a tension that felt almost sacrilegious against the ecological chaos. "I wasn't going to let the storm win," I shot back, challenging him, but even I could feel the tremor in my voice. He studied my face, the heavy rain cascading around us, creating a private world where only our stormy connection mattered. "You're stronger than you think. If only you could see it," he murmured, his gaze piercing through defenses I had so carefully woven. "Maybe I'm just as conflicted as this weather." The words escaped me before I could catch them, revealing a thread of vulnerability. "What do you want from me, Alaric?" "Complete honesty?" He took a half step closer, the space between us charged. "I want you to know what it feels like to let go." "You mean submit?" A sharpness crept into my voice. "Not submission. Freedom," he corrected gently, his charm weaving through the storm, soothing and electrifying. "The freedom to be who you desire to be, in every glorious, messy way." I was frozen, caught in the collision of his truth and my desires, the world outside looming dangerously close. But all reason was swept in the storm, leaving nothing but the raw pulse of attraction, the urge to understand what lay beneath his armored exterior. "Rebecca," he said, his voice low and relentless, "no one can protect you like I can. Not just from the rain or the darkness out there, but from everything within that holds you back. Let me be your cover." I fell into the magnetism of his gaze, the depth of his promise. "And what if you're wrong? Then we wrestle through it together." "Wrestle?" I let out a laugh that rang oddly in the charged night. "You mean argue and fight?" "Fighting can lead to understanding," he replied, stepping closer, our breaths mingling, the storm falling silent in face of the intensity surrounding us, or something much more volatile. I could feel the electric pulse beneath my skin, a ghost of the storm threading through me. And just like that, the walls I had meticulously built began to crack, revealing a hunger I had neglected for far too long. "Alaric," I whispered, but the word barely escaped my throat. It hung in the air, charged, for I was teetering on the edge of surrender. Before I could fall, he seized my wrist with a gentle, determined tug and drew me into his embrace, our bodies colliding like two storms meeting, fierce and wild. The world faded, the rain pouring down, the thunder rumbling in the distance, and all that remained was the pounding of my heart in concurrence with his. Each drop of rain felt like a kiss against our skin, the earth beneath us alive and watching, a witness to our recklessness. His lips grazed my cheek with a feather-like touch, sending shivers racing across my body as he cupped my face in his hands, tilting my chin to meet his gaze. "I want you to feel everything, Rebecca," he whispered. "All of it, the joy, the uncertainty, and all the beautiful chaos in between." In that moment, I saw both the thunder and lightning reflected in his eyes, emotions swirling like a tempest, ready to engulf us both. But I was done holding back. "Then I'm all in." And with that, the night exploded. The kiss came crashing down between us, fierce and desperate, a surrender of wills that shattered every thought I clung to. My body responded, igniting in response to his intensity, the steady rhythm of our heated breath enveloping us. I melted into him, rain soaking our clothes, each whisper of thunder echoing the depths of passion we had just unleashed. "Here, in a storm, aren't we a bit mad?" I murmured against his lips, breathless from more than just the raging elements. His eyes sparkled with mischief. "Madness is often just clarity dressed in chaos." And with our next kiss, the world faded into oblivion. I could taste the rain on his lips, electric and alive, igniting every fiber of my being. My hands threaded through his damp hair, pulling him closer and closer until the storm of longing became our cocoon. He responded in kind, his hands roaming over my waist, pulling me tightly against him, our bodies moving as if choreographed by the thunder's drum. Passion was unleashed, a dance of warmth mixed with the cool exterior of the rain. And I finally surrendered to the tempest within us. "Alaric," I breathed as we broke apart, his forehead resting against mine, both of us panting in the confusion of desire. The storm howled around us, but in that moment, I knew I had discovered my own ferocity. "You have to promise me something," I gasped, pulling back to look into his stormy eyes. He raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Anything." "Promise me that amidst all this chaos," I said slowly, gathering my thoughts even as my heart raced, "we will fight for our own clarity." "I promise," he whispered back, his breath mingling with the cool night air, powerful and unwavering. As the rain continued to pour, I felt an exhilarating sense of control wash over me amidst the wildness. Together, we would chart unknown territories through the stormy nights and the quiet moments beyond. Who knew what other chaos awaited us? But with Alaric, I was ready to embrace it all. Chapter 9, Facing Confrontation. The sprawling windows of my father's estate rattled with the fury of an impending storm, the deep gray clouds swirling like the tumult inside me. I stood before the grand fireplace, watching the flames dance, each flicker mirroring the chaotic thoughts whirling in my mind. With a swift motion, I clutched my pendant, a worn, ornate piece my mother once said cradled our family's history, though I now wondered if it had any power over the future. Today felt too significant, too electric, as if the universe conspired with nature to thrust me into confrontation. "Rebecca?" A voice broke through the storm, a voice that stirred something primal within me. Alaric stood at the threshold, silhouetted against the dim light. The tension crackled between us like the first rumble of thunder. I turned, trying to find my footing in the emotional maelstrom. "What do you want, Alaric?" I kept my tone steady, though my heart raced, clashing against the calm I attempted to project. He stepped closer, and the edge of desperation settled upon his features. "We need to talk," I echoed, feeling a rush of irony. "Or are we here to dance around more secrets?" His jaw tightened. The subtle shift in his posture warned me he was bracing for battle. This was a dance neither of us had mastered. "What other choice do I have if you keep pushing me away?" "Why would I push you away?" I retorted, though my own frustration crackled dangerously beneath my composed surface. "You're the one who—" "I'm the one who what?" he interrupted, intensity rising. "Am I pushing you away, or are you afraid of discovering how much you need me?" The accusation hung in the air, suffocating, mingled with the scent of smoldering wood and inevitable rain. I took a step back, desperate to regain control. "I need you to stop meddling in my life, Alaric. I'm not one of your games." His gaze darkened as if my words struck a raw nerve. "Games? Is that what you think this is? Because I see you as so much more than a pastime." "Then why don't you act like it?" I shot back, desperate for the truth behind his pull on me, for clarity among the blurring lines we traversed. Suddenly, the thunder cracked, shaking a lingering tension free. "You want honesty?" he spat, taking a step closer, invading my space. "Fine. I orchestrated those sabotages against your competitors." Whirlwind thoughts turned my world upside down. "You did what?" I hissed, stepping back again, processing the ramifications. Each word he spoke felt like an added weight, pressing down on my heart. Just when I thought I understood him, he threw this revelation like shrapnel into a fragile truce. "There's a method to my madness," he said, his voice now soft, coaxing. "It was never just about keeping you close, Rebecca. "No!" I exclaimed, my heart shrieking louder than thunder. "You do not get to manipulate me like this." "Then tell me why you won't stay," he whispered, the vulnerability cutting through my defenses like a blade. "Why won't you accept what's between us?" "Because I'm terrified, Alaric." The words tumbled from my lips, raw and unedited. "I don't know who I am when I'm with you. I don't want to lose myself." The flicker of understanding in his eyes was fleeting, but profound. "You think being with me means losing your identity?" His features softened, the anger ebbing into concern. "No one can take that from you but you, Rebecca." Caught off guard by his tenderness, I hesitated, a crack in the armor I had painstakingly constructed. "You of all people, Alaric, should understand how dangerous attachment can be. I'm not asking for attachment. I'm asking for honesty, he replied, taking a step closer again. Let the storm rage. Let it drown us if that's what it takes to break the chains we wrap around ourselves. Before I could respond, the wind howled through the open window, sending the flames in the fireplace flickering erratically. I felt a rush of adrenaline, the impending storm mirroring the tempest brewing between us. Perhaps it had to be now or never. Fine, what do you want from me, Alaric? I hissed, leaning closer, my heart booming with every word. His gaze softened as if an unspoken understanding flooded the air. I want you to see the person standing in front of you, not the monster you think I am. I'll do anything to prove I'm not a threat. In that moment, with thunder rumbling like the heartbeat of the universe, something shifted within me. Perhaps the only fear that stifled me was the realization that I could let someone in. I took a breath, steadying myself. What's the price for your truth? His voice dropped to a whisper, intimate and inviting. Your heart, your trust. The storm outside erupted, howling against the intricately carved walls of the estate, as I felt myself leaning into him. You think my heart is on the table? I challenged, every inch of my being thrumming with unyielding desire. I've laid mine bare, he shot back, his sincerity igniting a heat between us, deepening the space that separated our souls. Now it's your turn. For an endless moment, the words hung, fragile and electrifying, and then it happened. I surged forward, closing the space between us, burying my desires in the wild cacophony of our surroundings. He caught my face, his hands trembling with the weight of moments unsaid. With a fierce urgency, I kissed him, our mouths crashing together with the fervor of a tempest's first strike. The world around us faded, drowned out by the chaos, not just the storm outside, but the pulsing violence of everything unsaid. I felt the tension dissolve as we battled for dominance, our emotions pouring out like a deluge, soaking through the barriers we had both created. Is this what you wanted? He murmured against my lips, his breath like a warm breeze amid the chill of the storm. Yes, this and more, I responded with a fervor I never knew I possessed, that unfurling inside me like a blossoming flower after the rain. We stumbled back against the fireplace as the fire crackled, heat rolling off our bodies. Clothes became unnecessary. I tugged at his shirt, revealing the taut skin beneath, as he peeled the fabric off my shoulders, each touch igniting flames beneath my skin. It felt primal, the way our bodies fit together, as if we were celestial beings drawn to orbit one another, despite the darkness that shimmered around us. I felt unmoored as the world outside roared in panic, wrapped instead in the intimacy of his skin, the firm grip of his hands propelling me deeper into this world we had stumbled into together. Rebecca, he murmured, his voice a low growl as he captured my gaze, staring into the depths of my uncertainty and defiance. His lips brushed against my neck, igniting me further, grounding me in this electric moment. Let go. Let it wash over you. I surrendered, a war cry echoing through me, fading into passionate sighs as I lost myself in the storm of our desires. Our bodies tangled together, the rhythm growing more frantic with each thrust, the walls of my father's estate trembling, not just from the thunder outside, but from the very essence of life roaring through us. And in the eye of the storm, amid our furious, breathless passion, I began to understand something beyond just lust. This was a reclamation of my power, a forging of a new path among old scars. The storm, fiercer outside, caught only momentarily in the spaces between us, became a whisper, reminding me that sometimes love doesn't conquer all, but instead it pulls us into the chaos, demanding we rise within it. Our climax cracked like lightning, exploding within the tempest as the estate swayed, emblematic of all the places we had yet to explore beyond this moment. As we collapsed together, our chests heaving amidst the echo of the storm, the fabric of our connection shifted, entwining more profoundly than I had ever thought possible. Looking into his eyes, I found a glimmer of something profound, a promise perhaps, or just a shared acknowledgement of the journey ahead. The storm outside raged, furious and wild. But deep within me stirred a new conviction that I would reclaim my power. In the whirlwind of uncertainty, as the echoes of our confrontation faded into a tender silence, I grasped the pendant around my neck and whispered, "Whatever comes next, I choose this." Chapter 10. Past returns to haunt. The scent of linseed oil permeated the gallery, mingling with the sharp aroma of turpentine, my sanctuary in a world of chaos. I squeezed the brush lightly, feeling the brushstroke glide across the canvas, even as my mind tangled like tendrils of ivy around Alaric's dark mystery. Each stroke settled a crack in my heart, revealing the fire simmering beneath, ignited by his persistent nearness. I paused, letting the quiet hum of the studio fill my ears as I stared at the unfinished piece. A portrait of my father, or perhaps of a past I longed to capture. "Rebecca?" A voice zigzagged through the expansive room. I turned, wiping my hands on my apron, leaving smudges of color on the fabric. "Elena, I didn't hear you come in." Elena's brows furrowed, the edges of her deep-fried humor softened by genuine concern as she stalked closer, skirting around splashes of color on the floor. "You look like a lost artist from the Renaissance who just discovered paint could be poisonous." "Hilarious," I shot back, forcing a smile I didn't feel. "I'm fine. Just working on my father's portrait." "Right, and you're still using the canvas he bought last summer, aren't you?" "You should let it go," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Bye-bye, dear memories. Hello, fresh starts." I turned back to the canvas, observing the imperfect, hesitant strokes. "It's not that simple. His legacy is tied to this. I can't just wipe it clean." "True, but sometimes you have to paint over the ghosts." She chuckled lightly, but the laughter faded as if swallowed by the shadows in the room. "By the way, I ran into—" Before she could finish, the door swung open, and the familiar towering figure loomed in the entryway, the shadows of the gallery thrown against his tall frame like the bars of a cage. "Alaric." "Alaric?" My pulse quickened, the weight of his presence interlacing with the dry paint scents bouncing off the walls. That same alluring danger drifted like the thick fog of a sinister mischief, channeling through the whole room. Elena plastered on a smile, dropping the softness of moments past to assume a playful demeanor. "Coast is clear. No need to break out the charm today." "Ah, but that would be a disservice, wouldn't it?" His voice was as smooth as velvet, sending ricochets of tingling electricity through me. "Are those lines in the tapestry of charisma, or merely the threads of uncertainty?" I remarked, unable to resist my own pull toward playful sarcasm. "I think it's a bit of both, but isn't that what keeps things interesting?" He stepped closer, casting his gaze from Elena to me. "Doesn't it ignite a certain fire?" "Clever man," Elena said, smirking and crossing her arms, the weight of her decision to intervene bubbling beneath the surface like an unattended pot on an open flame. "But you know what ignites even hotter? Lunch. Or did you want me to leave you two alone to reenact some daring art piece?" "Lunch sounds wonderful," I interjected, grateful for her reprieve, though something else loomed heavily behind my ribs, a subconscious worry creeping up my spine. "What do you think, Alaric?" "Only if I'm invited to participate in your discussion about mortality and all that drama that lingers beneath the paint." His eyes locked with mine, a knowing smile curling his lips as if every word dripped with an underlying challenge, an entrancing tease that left my thoughts splintered and wild. As we strolled into the cafe down the street, the sun streamed through the large windows, illuminating our tiny corner table beneath a vibrant scarf of colorful art. The laughter of patrons swirled around, creating a chaotic tapestry of sound, each thread an echo of life outside our huddled group. Yet as I glanced at Alaric, all I could think was how formidable he felt, alongside my bubbling fears. "Have you given any thought to my proposal?" he asked, his voice smooth like creamy espresso, but layered like an elaborate Turkish delight I wanted to devour. Absurdly enticing, filled with hidden complexities. I choked on the sip of water I had just taken. Yes, my voice faltered. Uncertainty filled my chest again, a suffocating mix of ambition and vulnerability. But what would that entail? Elena leaned closer, her unfiltered curiosity swirling her drake. "Wait, proposal? Is this a marriage proposal or an art one? Because that could change everything." I shot her a half-hearted glare, but inside, I didn't know what was more alarming, her blithe laughter or the heat rising between Alaric and me. "Not that kind." I gestured swiftly, desperate to divert the topic, while still keeping my tone light. "I'm still weighing whether I want to risk spilling my deepest secrets for a fleeting moment of glory." "What glory might that be?" Alaric asked, his voice poised and rich with genuine intrigue. "To earn the recognition you so deeply desire? Or simply to understand your family's shadow?" My heart thudded heavily, weighed down by the burden of expectations and the enigma of my family's history. Maybe it's both. I took a deep breath, my voice thin, though I fought to steady it. "Does it matter which? You know," and here I pointed like a reset button on this conversation. "My designs for the estate are about so much more than ambition. They're about healing. Hurt turns to passion, and then maybe something even more profound blooms from the wreckage." His eyes bore into mine, a flicker of admiration igniting in their deep depths. "Can we make it profound over dessert? Because I'm starving," Elena chirped, intervening as a streak of tension danced in the air between us like a live wire. "We might as well indulge before all this talk of legacy will land you another meeting with misguided relatives." Just then, a figure smashed through the door, the bell jingling with an enthusiastic swing. My heart sank as I recognized the man, Mason Green, a name buried deep in the dirt of my past. My head spun to Alaric as I saw concern flicker in his eyes, but it was lost in the whirlwind of emotions that ensued. "Rebecca," Mason boomed with a voice like a thunderclap over their distracted conversation, his long figure framing the doorway. "We need to talk about your family legacy immediately." Elena's fork stopped midair, a bemused fascination lighting her face. "This isn't awkward at all, is it?" "No, hardly at all," I murmured, a nerve-wracking laugh escaping as the shadows of my childhood rushed back, and the tension between Alaric and me shifted to something even more tenuous. "Mason, why are you here?" "Let's just say I've come to bring forth the truth. Your father's estate holds more than just whispers of glory. It's tangled in layers of secrets that reek like a time bomb waiting to blow." "What are you talking about?" I shot back, frustration frosting my tone as the air grew stale around us. "Are you one of those sensationalist historians now?" Alaric remained still beside me, a tightness enveloping his jaw as I sensed his guarded watchfulness, the now familiar protective edge I craved yet feared. "Not sensationalist, no," Mason insisted, stepping closer as he took my hands aggressively. "You don't know the half of what's been done on your father's behalf. Only you can change the course of your future, Rebecca. We need secrets to die, right here and now." "Do you think I can handle more lies?" My voice spun into sharpness, snapping between us as I pulled my hands away. "You have no idea what you're inviting," Mason roared back. "If you don't take charge of the truth, others will." The whole cafe had lifted their gazes, straining to listen to our unyielding exchange. A silence thick enough to cut with a knife engulfed us. There was something surreal about it all, about the inexplicable pull that held me captive while igniting my fears. "Stop before this becomes a scene," Alaric rumbled, squeezing my hand tightly, the warmth and urgency igniting something primal between us. "Rebecca, I'll help you. You don't have to take this burden on alone. The heat pooling between us shifted yet again, a dance of emotions that promised passions and emotions far beyond anything either of us could anticipate. My heart thundered, but was it love I felt, or something tangled in a hungry thirst for power? Mason's presence acted like an unwelcome incantation, both demanding my attention and revealing the fractures in my life I'd carefully assembled. Rebecca, if you want more than mere shadows of your father's mistakes, we need to discuss this away from here. Perhaps, I breezed out, perhaps it's time I figure out which path is truly mine. Alaric's grip loosened slightly, but the dark intensity churned like a storm just at the edges of my heart. I glanced at him, a silent plea narrowing the space between us, a vow to pivot toward honesty in whatever lay ahead. Elena shifted uneasily, her humor noticeably dampened. Sure, just do it during happy hour next time, okay? Right, so reuniting with old friends, what a riveting way to spend lunch, I muttered, but the words felt heavy in the air, the thrill of the unexpected igniting my spirit. Despite the whirlwind, I noticed the way Alaric's eyes danced over me, deeply engrossed, yet filtering through the chaos of this bizarre manifestation of the past. My world had pried open, and in ways I couldn't yet understand, perhaps destiny had intervened. Let's just get through dessert first, then we can face whatever specters await. Alaric's voice brought me back to the ground, sparking warmth beneath my skin I couldn't ignore. After all, you deserve that. I nodded, allowing a sliver of breath to part my lips, exhilaration and dread dancing in a maddening waltz that drew me nearer and deeper into the pervasive darkness. Fine, I conceded, before turning back to Mason, my heart racing. I'll hear you out, over secret recipes of heartbreak. Alaric's grip tightened again, an unspoken promise amidst the brewing storm, my resolve illuminating the path ahead. Together, we could navigate whatever shadows Mason brought with him, and perhaps uncover the truth that would reshape everything we thought we knew. Just remember, Mason said, eyes sharp and challenging, you don't control the past, Rebecca, but the future, that's on you. And as the cafe returned to its jumbled scuttle of conversation and laughter, an unexpected thrill reverberated through my heart. I had a choice, and with Alaric by my side, perhaps it would turn out to be the most empowering one yet. Chapter 11, Confessions of Manipulation. The rain tapped against the tall, arched windows of the estate like a hesitant suitor, each drop punctuating the silence with a reminder of the tempest brewing both outside and within. Shadows danced across the polished wood floors, each flicker illuminating the remnants of my father's legacy, a legacy that now felt achingly heavy on my shoulders. The air was thick with the musty scent of old books, mingling with the fresh scent of the rain-soaked earth. A clash of history and relentless renewal. In the dimly lit study, the grand mahogany desk stood resolute, amidst the scattered papers and half-finished sketches of my proposed renovations. My plans to revive and transform this estate into a sanctuary for the arts echoed loudly in my mind. Yet as I stared out at the torrential downpour, I longed for the clarity that rain sometimes brings, but found only confusion and tension. Alaric Devereaux had turned my world upside down the moment he stepped through the doors of this place, charismatic and dangerously magnetic. He was here now, hiding behind a mask of charm, his dark eyes consuming everything they touched, and today, a different kind of storm brewed between us. Seated across from me, he leaned back casually in his chair, yet I could sense the tautness in his posture. The playfulness that had danced between us was replaced by something far more serious, something raw. "Rebecca," he began, his voice low and steady against the drumming of the rain. "We need to talk." I forced a smile, though it felt brittle on my lips. "What's the matter? We're not talking about the art exhibit anymore?" His lips curled into a slight smirk, but the shadow behind it unsettled me. "Not precisely, no." There was an edge in his tone that made the room feel suddenly smaller. I crossed my arms, my heart pounding as treaded water pulled tighter around me. Is this a good moment to mention I'm not particularly fond of this kind of mystery? He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. I've crossed some lines, Rebecca. Lines I shouldn't have. And what's worse, I acted with an intent that may forever change how you see me. I held my breath, feeling the air thicken with the implications of his words. What do you mean? A flash of doubt flickered across his face. I've manipulated circumstances to keep you close. The rival bidders for the estate? You're the one behind their sabotage, I interjected, my voice barely a whisper. The world tilted slightly as air rushed from my lungs. Everything I had sensed but refused to acknowledge fell into place. You orchestrated it all? Yes, he confessed quietly, eyes glistening with an honesty that felt both liberating and suffocating. I won't deny it. I needed you near me, and I thought if I made sure you had no competitors, you'd focus on what truly mattered. What matters to you or to me? I shot back, my heart racing. There was silence, the tension mingling with the steady beat of rain. I was drawn to his sincerity. The storm outside mirrored the one rolling within me. I craved honesty, yet the price seemed steep. Both, Rebecca, he replied, his voice a low rumble, like thunder from a distance. We're stronger together. You know that. We might have had an unbreakable connection, a chemistry that crackled like static in the air. But beneath that lay a truth I couldn't ignore. Then why couldn't you just tell me? Why manipulate me? I was afraid of losing you. All of this, he gestured vaguely around the room, encompassing our tangled relationship, had me scrambling. I thought if I could conquer the mess surrounding your father's estate, you'd let me help guide you, protect you. His candor cut deep, tumbling me between fury and the warmth of understanding. By weaving a web of lies, it wasn't just lies. His voice grew earnest, the warmth flicker in his eyes. It was love, an obscure kind, but love nonetheless. My breath caught. Is that what you call it? Love? Because it feels more like a prison you've crafted for me. A tense silence fell between us, interrupted only by the storm outside, a reminder of what hung uneasily between us, unresolved and clawing at our hearts. You're not imprisoned, he said, the weight of his words hanging heavily. You have the chance to make this estate flourish. I only wanted to protect that chance. But at what cost? I scoffed. At the cost of who I am? He rose, his intensity pulsing through the air, driving home the point with each stride toward me. Who are you, Rebecca? Are you willing to sacrifice your dreams for these absurd rules of engagement? I stared into his eyes, dark, defiant, and unrestful. Maybe I need to learn who I am without you pulling my strings. He stood just inches away, and a different kind of tension filled the space. There was heat, a rising anticipation edged with danger, a truth I couldn't quite abandon, despite the ground we tread on. I'm here trying to find common ground, he whispered, drawing close. By lying to me? The words escaped before I could catch them, settling heavily in the charged air between us. Alaric lowered his gaze, conflicted. I've made mistakes, but as you unravel the threads of your father's estate, you'll see. I stepped back, shaking my head vigorously. Maybe the prince of the underworld doesn't quite understand the values of honesty. A bitter laughter escaped him. And here we are, two of the most stubborn people I know, arguing over the last moments of the rain. What I wouldn't do to throw caution to the wind. Is that not your specialty? He stepped closer again, this time reaching out to cradle my chin gently, tilting it upward. His touch sent shivers racing through my veins, breaking apart the tension that had buoyed like a dam waiting to burst. I'm living in the storm for you, Rebecca. Don't pretend you're not in it with me. Words failed me for an instant as the sky broke above us. Lightning illuminated his face, sharp features softened by longing. The floodgates of my desire cracked, surfacing memories of every secret touch, breath against skin, the taste of lingering kisses that had ignited something I struggled to identify. Then maybe we navigate these waters together, I murmured, the silence between thoughts giving way to the insistent tension connecting us. His brow furrowed, and our breaths mingled, intensified by the brewing storm outside and the tempest within. Together. And just as the words settled between us, the storm outside roared, a crescendo of sound, a wave crashing over everything. I pulled him closer, my hand pressed against his chest, feeling the wild thudding beneath my palm. "Show me," I gasped, the urge overwhelming. He engulfed me in an embrace that felt like home, yet edged with the urgency of the unknown. Our lips met, a sudden explosion amidst the chaos, igniting the world around us into a frenzy of heat and need. The kiss was electric, oscillating between softness and burning hunger. All that I had repressed collided. I swayed into him, his hands threading through my hair, pulling me deeper into the whirlpool of desire. My fingers ran down the line of his jaw, igniting the fire between us further, each slide sparking a deeper connection, a melding of ambition and passion, foundation and fantasy. Every moment flourished in the heat, the whisper of clothing rustling, echoing our growing lust. Heat enveloped us, pushing through the boundaries of honesty and illusion. The rich taste of Alaric's lips, a needful remedy against our mingled lies. "Your body feels like freedom, real freedom," he breathed against my mouth, a smoky urgency radiating from him. "Then give me that freedom," I urged, experiencing something I hadn't dared to ask for before. He smirked, igniting my spirit. "Be careful what you wish for, Rebecca Ashford." The storm raged on outside, its echoes mirroring the tumult within. Yet in that moment I was alive, unshackled from the binds of self-doubt, ready to forge a path intertwined with the man who had taught me as much about danger as he had about desire. A sudden crash of thunder reverberated through the air, grounding us. He pressed me against the desk, its weight reassuring as we unleashed all that we'd held tightly, a whirlwind of rapture interwoven with our truths. I gasped as his hands moved with purpose, exploring every inch, every curve, igniting sparks that spread like wildfire through my body. "You've turned my world upside down," I murmured between kisses, swept away in the torrent of emotions. His lips hovered near my ear, sending shivers cascading down my spine. "Then let me show you just how wild it can be." We lost ourselves in that moment, the tumult of passion cradled against the backdrop of thunder, a cyclone of human desire, battle-worn and triumphant. And all at once, with the storms raging above and the electric connection below, I understood. The confluence of chaos and desire could birth something incredibly beautiful, if only we dared to embrace it. "Freedom, it's more than just a word," I whispered, wrapped in our shared truth. A truth that danced in the fire of each accidental touch, the stolen moments soon to follow. The storm was alive, but so were we. Nothing was as simple as it seemed, yet somehow, at that very moment, everything felt breathtakingly clear. Chapter 12. A Test of Silence. The estate, once a vibrant tapestry of art and culture, felt more like a hollow ruin. The echoes of its glory lingering like specters in the dim light of the fading noon. Dust motes danced on the shafts of sunlight, creeping through the large arched windows, illuminating the peeling wallpaper that seemed to whisper secrets of the past. I stood on the cold marble of the foyer, inhaling the faint odor of wood polish mixed with the mustiness of neglect. This was home, yet it felt less mine each day, slipping through my fingers like fine sand. Alaric stomped up the back staircase, his heavy steps resonating through the empty halls. I should call out, force a conversation, but a rebellious instinct urged me to retreat. Silence could speak volumes if given the chance, I thought, my heart throbbing with unspoken tension. Turning away, I ventured into the gallery, my sanctuary of solitude. As I paced through the gallery, I couldn't shake the echoes of our last conversation. "Rebecca," he had said, his voice a gravelly whisper that wrapped around me like a suffocating fog. "You and I, We're drawn together by forces beyond our control. What did that mean for me? I wrapped my arms around myself, as if holding my fractured thoughts together. "Hey, Rach," called Mariah's voice from the doorway, her bright smile a jolt of sunshine against my murky mood. "You good?" Her presence was a vibrant upheaval against the backdrop of my brooding. "Fine," I said a little too quickly. "Your fine is all kinds of not fine," she pointed out, stepping into the room and glancing at the incongruously romantic fragments of art around us. "Is it Alaric again?" "No," I replied shortly, but I'd already lost the battle. "Liar," she grinned, plopping down on a nearby sofa that let out a low creak beneath her. "He's been more intense than usual, huh? I swear, this house is a pressure cooker when those two are in the same room." I laughed half-heartedly, the sound feeling foreign in the otherwise silent gallery. "It's not just him. I'm feeling a lot right now." "You two should just get it over with and kiss already," she said, while tossing her long dark curls over her shoulder. Really, why this hesitance? What's the worst that could happen?" I hesitated, flashes of our previous encounters igniting unwanted heat in my cheeks. "I don't know, maybe losing myself in whatever this is? Or maybe finding yourself in it," she countered, eyes sparkling. "What if Alaric helps you reclaim everything this place represents? Trust me, he's intense, but he's not a villain, Rach." "Tell that to my anxiety," I shot back, but Mariah's face remained resolute. "Love is messy and complicated. You love art, right? Just think of this as a canvas. You have to take risks to create something beautiful." "I think you might be overselling this," I said with a half-smile. Mariah rolled her eyes dramatically. "Okay, Picasso, you may be fine right now, but when push comes to shove, do you really want to find yourself caught between ambition and attraction?" Before I could respond, Alaric appeared in the doorway, his silhouette framed by the dim golden light of the hallway. The shade of his suit accented the rugged lines of his frame, and I felt something strange pull within me, a gravity that I both resented and craved. "Rebecca," he said, his voice low and edged with a twinge of urgency. "Yeah?" I replied, crossing my arms, a defensive instinct boiling under the surface. "Can we talk?" he asked, a challenge and an invitation intertwined in his tone. An electric silence settled between us. Every nerve felt hyper-aware, yet my heart hammered with a tension for which I was wholly unprepared. My eyes flicked to Mariah. She raised an eyebrow suggestively and mouthed, "Talk to him." "Fine," I said, squaring my shoulders, "but keep it brief. I have things to do." Alaric's lips curled into what almost resembled a smile, one that felt layered with secrets, unyielding desire, and a hint of vulnerability. "All right, how about we start over?" I exhaled slowly, refusing to yield to the magnetic pull he exerted over my consciousness. "You mean as in not pretending I don't feel like I'm caught in a tug-of-war between you and my ambitions?" "Exactly that," he said, stepping further into the room, the delicious scent of sandalwood and cedar enveloping me. "I never meant for this to feel like a competition. I just wanted you closer." "You've been sabotaging my rivals," I blurted, crossing the distance between us before I could catch my breath. "How is that meant to help me? How can I trust you when you keep operating in the shadows?" "Because I'm a flawed man," he replied earnestly, his eyes searching mine. "I thought you'd understand the pressure this brings. I need you with me, Rebecca, not as a rival, but as a partner." "Then why don't you just say that instead of playing these convoluted games?" "Because I'm terrified of losing you," he said, his voice a whisper. "Look, I didn't realize until you walked into my life how much I needed someone like you. Someone bold, someone real." For a moment my defenses wavered as I met his gaze. The air pulsed between us, thick with unconfessed feelings that hovered just out of reach. "And what happens when the truth of your past catches up with you? Will it tear us apart?" I pressed, the vulnerability of my voice surprising even me. "If it doesn't, then I'll prove to you every day that you can trust me." "Let's explore this connection without games," he said, his voice urgent, intent. You want to test the limits of this? Fine. I stepped back, coating my tone in a laugh to mask the tremor in my heart. But no more shadows, Alaric. Just daylight. Bring it. Then let's turn this silence into something profound, he challenged, his face suddenly serious, fierce with a hunger I could almost taste. The void between us felt oppressive, alive with the strength of his eyes. It ignited something within me, a flicker that spread, urging forward the thoughts and feelings I had tried to contain. Then show me. He stepped closer, an undeniable intensity radiating from him, pouring into me as I felt the heat spiral between us, igniting every repressed desire. His breath mingled with mine as our lips hovered, breathing in that electric sharpness of possibility. In that moment, every argument faded. The world outside wavered, breaking apart with the chaos of a universe colliding, leaving only space for us. Just when it felt like our lips would finally connect, Mariah cleared her throat loudly, her playful voice echoing through the gallery. All right, Romeo and Juliet, this isn't a stage. Can we take it to the room before these two melt into a puddle of feelings? Alaric smiled, the spark alighting his eyes now unburdened by anxiety. Maybe that's a good idea. Oh no, are you two going to be all mopey in the dark? Mariah exclaimed, faking an exaggerated gasp. Just admit it, both of you. You've already fallen. How romantic. Oh, just get out, I laughed, unable to mask the thrill that buzzed through my veins. The laughter swirled around us. Alaric's smirk deepened, a shared connection sparking between us, as the walls of the gallery seemed to shimmer alive with potential. In that moment, it felt as if silence could transform into something not just profound, but dazzling. Stepping forward, I gripped Alaric's hand, my resolve taking shape. But if we're going to do this, it has to be real. No more secrets, no more shadows. Agreed, he replied, his voice steady, as if our agreement anchored us in the chaos. No more hiding. Together we began to step into the tangible reality of each other, ready to confront the blank canvas of our joining with the brushstrokes of truth, passion, and the wildness of our uncharted connection. Would this silence only amplify the cacophony awaiting us? The world outside would have to wait. For now, we were poised to ignite the ties that bound us, and maybe, just maybe, allow what we had been to set us free. Chapter 13, The Burden of Trauma. Do you even know what it's like to lose everything? Alaric leaned against the tall window of my father's study, the afternoon light catching the dust motes that swirled between us. His voice held the weight of thunderclouds, brewing rain, and the air felt electric, charged with an unspoken tension. What do you mean? I stumbled, my pulse quickening as I shifted against the ornate wooden desk, its surface still littered with remnants of my father's legacy. A yellowing manuscript lay sprawled beside an old brass inkwell, but they felt painfully insignificant in the shadow of this conversation. I was still grappling with the intricate web of our last encounter, his kiss, a fierce sort of claim that churned through my insides like a tempest. You're so focused on what you're fighting for, he said. But what about what you might lose? What about the pieces that shatter? Alaric, I began, but the authority in his gaze shifted from playful flirtation to a simmering intensity that demanded I listen. I didn't just lose my family, Rebecca. I lost my childhood. His words hung in the air, filled with memories that weren't mine, shadows pulling on my heart. What happened? I felt that familiar pull toward him, the man with the dangerous edges, the shadows concealed beneath his playful bravado. He turned from me, hands bracing the window frame, muscles taut. Let's just say my father had a unique way of teaching lessons that came with consequences. My mother, she was trapped in that world. She tried to shield me, but his voice cracked, the silence thick and heavy. It twisted into something ugly, something I couldn't escape. I took a step closer, the scent of jasmine from the garden wafting in, laced with despair. I won't let you hide behind this. You're not that boy anymore. You're powerful. Powerful or a monster? Alaric turned suddenly, eyes furious yet vulnerable, slicing through the emotional air like knife edges. Just like my father wanted. Alaric, you're not your parents. You're making choices, I protested, gripping the edge of the desk to steady myself. You can still shape who you want to be. Can I? He stepped forward, and the air thickened, pulling us into an embrace full of unresolved tension. Everything I touch crumbles. Not me, I whispered. You know that. I'm not afraid. Then why does my heart race every time I get near you? His breath was a storm against my cheek, tantalizing yet scorching as it ignited something fierce within. Maybe it's because you see in me a reflection of your own fears. I stepped even closer, and his hands found my waist, fingers curling around the fabric of my blouse, drawing me into a wild dance of heat. Maybe it's because I want to shatter that reflection, he admitted, pushing his forehead against mine. Or maybe I want to drown in it. In that moment, everything between us collapsed. The walls, the weight of his secrets, the burdens of my own ambitions. I couldn't think of the family estate or the obligations I carried. Only the man before me, with shadows swirling in his eyes and a vulnerability that lured me closer. Then let's drown together. Together, huh? His lips curled into that wicked grin, and the air sparked with that familiar mischief, lightening the edges of the fraught conversation. You're awfully confident. Confident enough to take you on, I teased gently, my hands finding his chest, feeling the rapid rhythm of his heart. Then show me, he dared, and I braced my hands against his face, pulling him down to me, crashing our lips together. The kiss was an explosion of everything I had suppressed: passion, uncertainty, desire. I tasted his hesitation, mixed with the daring defiance. It set fire inside us, igniting every boundary we both feared to cross. God, I wish this wasn't so dangerous. His lips trailed down my jaw, a searing path of warmth. Dangerous is my middle name, I gasped, the thrill of his mouth against my neck sending shivers down my spine. No, it's not. It's Rebecca. Touché, I chuckled breathlessly as I pulled him back down for another dizzying kiss. The silence that enveloped us was layered, a mix of vulnerability and the pleasure of our union. Our bodies moved beyond words, a silent sonnet telling tales only we could decipher. I could feel the heat radiating between us, a magnetic pull that pinched tightly at my core. Rebecca, he murmured, breaking away momentarily, his words teasingly hesitant. Promise me you'll be safe, that I won't lose you. Promise me you'll not push me away, I countered, suddenly fearful of the secrets hovering like ghosts around us. He brushed the hair back from my face, fingers tender and lingering. I don't want you to understand me. I don't want you to be involved. And yet here we are, I chuckled softly, falling into that dangerous, dizzying rhythm once more. Every brush of our lips ignited a frenzied wave of longing, a fresh chapter opening beneath our fingertips. Just then, the door swung open, revealing Natalie, my closest friend, her eyes wide with shock. I knocked. Alaric and I froze, caught mid-embrace. The unspoken tension bounced in the air, laughter threatening to bubble up. Wasn't expecting the lovebirds to be quite so entangled, she quipped, her grin turning into a playful smirk. Your timing is impeccable, I said, trying to regain my composure. Natalie raised an eyebrow, leaning against the doorway with her arms crossed. You know I'm here to save you from possible heartbreak, right? Am I interrupting? Should I come back later? Alaric's laughter boomed. You're welcome to join if you're brave enough. Pfft, brave? Come on, I'm just here to throw some sense into this lovely mess. She stepped fully into the room, her presence brightening the ambiance. Some sense? Or jealous enthusiasm, Ray? Alaric shot back, feigning a pout. Clearly he's rattled, but he's a sucker for intense moments. Natalie winked as I rolled my eyes. Let's focus on you, darling, she continued, leaning closer to me. Are you really okay? This guy seems to be this wonderful blend of terrible ideas and mouth-watering allure. It's complicated, I admitted, glancing at Alaric, who met my gaze with a heat that ignited every remaining doubt. Complicated is my favorite flavor, Alaric interjected, and Rebecca here is a delightful surprise, he added, that edge of humor glinting in his eyes. Humor and hotness. Great combo. Natalie nodded approvingly. Speaking of hotness, how about we celebrate my latest design for the estate instead of wallowing in angst? I suggested, wanting to shift the dynamic, feeling the playful banter reignite the flickering flames between us. Oh, a design? Alaric's interest piqued, his face shifting from flirtation to consideration. What are we looking at? I expanded my arms. I'm thinking an art gallery transformed into a vibrant community space, an innovation hub where creatives can thrive. And what place do I have in this vision? He asked, folding his arms. A powerful one, if you play your cards right, I concluded, biting my lip, locking eyes with him. His gaze softened. And you think I have a chance? I think you have every chance. For once, this time, we both get to choose. So what's next? Natalie leaned against the doorframe again, her smile now a mix of excitement and expectation. Together, we began to forge ideas like painters with a palette of wild colors. My heart thrummed against the expectation, the blood racing not only with ambition, but with a dizzying thrill for what was unfolding. Not just with Alaric, but within me. And that night, I began to realize one heavy truth. If I was ever going to rebuild after everything that shattered, I would not do it alone, because love, flaws and all, just might cast a light to heal the most fragile of wounds. Chapter 14. Life or Death Attack. The late afternoon sun slanted through the benched windows of the estate study, dappling the polished oak desk with fleeting patterns. The air was thick with the scent of aged paper and fresh ink, a stirring reminder of the legacy I was fighting to revive. I perched on the edge of the desk, surrounded by stacks of research papers, art catalogs, and my father's handwritten notes, eager yet nervous. History was one thing, but reclaiming my father's estate in a world rife with sabotage felt like playing a game of chess without all the pieces. Rebecca, why are you staring at that like it owes you money? My friend Leah sauntered in, a playful grin lighting up her features. A portrait of vibrancy. She was a ray of sunshine, her bold cotton dress a vibrant cocktail of lemon and tangerine. I'm just thinking, I replied, forcing a smile. This place does owe me something. Like what, a better Wi-Fi connection? I could take care of that, you know. Her laughter danced through the air, but my heart wasn't in it. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the dusty corners of the room. This was more than just about restoring an estate. It was about reclaiming my place in the world, shattered after my father's death. I've been feeling a bit out of sorts lately, I admitted, letting the loaded weight of my vulnerability fill the space. To put it lightly, Leah said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. You're practically a ghost who can't decide whether to haunt the gallery or chase after a certain Devereaux. Alaric is just complicated, I murmured, my gaze momentarily lost in the intricacies of a painting's frame. Oh, he's definitely complicated, Leah echoed, raising an eyebrow. But maybe that's precisely what makes him exciting. She leaned closer. And don't deny that you love the thrill he brings. Exciting is one word for it. Laughing, I rolled my eyes, but my heart raced at the thought of Alaric. What's a little chaos without some passion, right? The moment hung between us, charged. But as quickly as we were swept into that conversation, reality crashed in. Leah's phone buzzed on the desk, jolting us back. She glanced at the screen, brow furrowing. Grace says they're ready with the shipment for the gallery. Let's pack up and head over. You can use the break. Sure, let's grab the... Before I could finish, the sound of shattering glass echoed across the hall. My heart dropped. What was that? Leah's laughter faded, replaced by serious focus. You stay here. I'll go check. Leah, wait! But she was already gliding out of the study, the click of her heels fading into silence. My instinct screamed at me to follow, but I couldn't let fear grip me. I stood, trembling slightly as I made my way to the door, clutching the edges of the doorframe like it tethered me to reality. Then came the chorus of muffled voices. Some were angry, others frantic. I slipped into the hallway, pulse quickening at the commotion. The estate, once lively with potential, had become a stage for something sinister. Suddenly, a firm grip yanked me back, pulling me against a broad, warm chest. Alaric's scent enveloped me, smoky cedar mixed with the vibrant citrus of his cologne. "Stay close," he murmured, his breath warm against my ear. "What's happening?" I asked, body shaking as my gaze darted to the chaos unfolding. "Someone's breached the grounds. I need you to be quiet," he hissed, looking over my shoulder with feral intensity. The shadows of his past flickered just beneath the surface, raw and dangerous. "Breach?" I whispered, a sense of impending doom drumming in my chest. "What do you mean?" "Just stay behind me." With a flick of his wrist, he gestured for me to follow, moving with a lethal grace. My instincts warred between curiosity and caution. I wanted to understand why threats came for me, but I didn't want to walk into the line of fire. Downstairs, muffled shouts merged with the clinking of metal. It was chaos wrapped in a violent ballet. "There they are!" Alaric's voice cut through, igniting an urgency. "Don't you dare move." He lunged and I followed instinctively, the world blurring around me as he drove me deeper into the fray. A figure dashed past, but Alaric intercepted, managing to tackle them to the ground. The intruder was wild-eyed, aggressive and determined, with a streak of desperation that sent adrenaline rocketing through me. I gasped. "Alaric! Stay back," he grunted, grappling the man as they twisted on the polished floor, each movement punctuated by raw emotion, a blend of violence and protection. A bead of sweat trickled down Alaric's brow, the right side of his jaw clenching as the man broke free momentarily and swung at him. I had to intervene. "Let me help," I shouted, adrenaline surging through me. "Stay out of this, Rebecca," he barked. But I couldn't root myself in fear. My heart begged me to act. In the next instant, I darted forward and snagged a heavy figurine from a side table, gripping it tightly as I swung it at the intruder's head. The sound of ceramic smashing against flesh rang through the air. The attacker stumbled back, dazed. "You?" "Run, Alaric!" My voice pitched to a frantic edge as I bounded to his side, emboldened by a mix of fear and protectiveness. Taking advantage, Alaric gained the upper hand and pinned the intruder to the floor, his knees digging into the man's back as he yanked his arms behind him. "What do you want?" Alaric demanded, breathless and sharp, but the man merely grinned, a devil's grin. "Doesn't matter. You think you can protect her?" "Enough," I shouted, breathless. The fierceness beneath that grin unsettled me. Why did this feel like they were fighting for something more than just this moment? My heart raced. "Alaric, let's just call the police." "Not yet," he growled, locking eyes with me. "I need to know who sent him." "Sent me? You think you know pain?" The intruder coughed, laughter bubbling up. "You've got no idea what you're up against." Alaric's grip tightened, and I felt the energy shifting. In this confrontation, there was an undercurrent that felt almost personal. Alaric seemed to know this man. This wasn't just a random attack. "Why are you really here?" Alaric pushed again. The man met his gaze, eyes glinting. "You think you're a king on your little throne? Just wait." Suddenly a siren blared outside, slicing through the tension, and the man's grin twisted into something darker, more threatening. In a fluid motion, Alaric crushed his weight down further, rainbows of strength and vulnerability colliding. "Listen," Alaric said slowly, his voice a low growl. "You think you can just waltz in here? You've made a mistake." "What mistake?" the intruder spat, defiance clinging to his tone. "The mistake of threatening the woman I care about." The intensity in Alaric's voice sent a simmering heat through me, igniting something primal. The absurdity of the moment struck me, a cocktail of fear and reckless desire simmering beneath the surface. As the siren's wail grew louder, the intruder seemed to sense the tide turning. In a final act of desperation, he shouted, "You're nothing, Devereaux. Just wait until they come for you." Alaric's expression hardened, his gaze fierce as he leaned in close. "Let them come," he growled, and the world warped around his words. "Police are here," shouted a voice from the doorway, but the intruder squirmed free, now panicking, and before I had a chance to shout out, he flung himself towards the door. Alaric released him just long enough to block the exit, wrestling with the intruder as chaos unfolded. The door burst open, and officers flooded into the mansion, instinctively drawing weapons. The next moments unfolded in a whirlwind. The intruder tried to dart past, only to be tackled by two officers who came rushing in, finally pinning him down. Alaric stood over him, breathing heavily as I tried to process the whirlwind of events. As the officers cuffed him, I couldn't help but feel the gravity of what had almost transpired. "Rebecca," Alaric turned, and my breath caught at the sight of him, wild and passionate. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said, albeit a bit shakily. "But what the hell just happened?" "They were testing the perimeter," he said, his voice low and filled with tension. "This isn't over. It never is." "I can't believe he came for me," I whispered. He stepped closer, barely a breath between us. "They didn't just come for you, Rebecca. They came for us." Suddenly the chaos faded, a pool of adrenaline ebbing as realization struck me. This was bigger than just an attack, it was a warning. "Us?" The word wove through my veins like fire. "Together," he whispered, eyes locked onto mine with a burning intensity. "We need to trust each other. We need to fight." "Fight for what? You? Your dangerous life?" Anger flared as I struggled to make sense of the whirlwind. "For you," he shot back, the fierce protectiveness spilling from him like molten fury. "You, your dreams, this estate, whatever the hell it takes. We can't just plunge into danger without thinking," I said, my heart racing in conflict between fear and an expanding yearning that thrilled me. "Maybe it's time to plunge," he said softly, and in that instant, clarity washed over me. That elusive truth whispered quietly, yet opened the door to some primal urge tethered deep within. Before I could respond, he crushed my mouth with his, the heat of the battle palpable in the charged kiss that followed. It surged between us, a whirlwind of reckless abandon igniting our senses. There was danger around us, yet in his arms, I felt safe amidst the tumult. Alaric pulled back, eyes dark with desire, hands fierce against my waist. Electricity sparking between us. "Damn it, Rebecca," he breathed. "You don't understand what you do to me." His fingers seized my chin, tilting my face toward his, and I saw the mix of vulnerability and fierceness dance in his gaze. "I don't want to be frightened," I confessed, voice trembling, heart racing. "But you keep pulling me closer, and it's complicated," he interrupted, inching closer again. "I agree. But if we're going to navigate this together, we have to embrace the chaos, the desire." "Desire," I echoed, my breath catching. Suddenly, anything else felt so distant compared to the fire igniting within us. In the aftermath of violence, with tension still thick in the air, this visceral storm grew into something more. A passionate bond unfurling between us, laced with darkness and light. It felt as if both my heart and imagination leapt into the deep end, finding meaning in the wild chaos of our lives. "Together then?" I asked, fully seeking the connection, not just fearing the abyss. "Together." He pressed his forehead against mine, letting the weight of the world fade away. The fervor of uncertain futures swirled around us. And within that chaos, I finally felt the veil lift, of loneliness, ambition, and timidity. I was with him, and amidst the storm, I found clarity and desire, tangled with fear, passion, and integrity. In that moment, I realized something monumental, that love, even in the face of adversity and danger, was worth fighting for. "I'm not afraid anymore," I murmured, breathless, as the world steadied around us. "Good," he replied, a smile breaking through the tension. "Because they won't be the last to come for us. Whatever's coming, we'll face it head on." And just like that, amidst thieves and danger, I felt a stirring of hope, a fierce resolve to navigate whatever treachery awaited us together. We stood on the precipice, hearts bound tightly with unyielding desire, and for better or worse, This was only the beginning of our intertwined fates. Chapter 15. Climactic Confrontation. The late afternoon sun struggled against dark clouds rolling in, an ominous prelude to the chaos that had been brewing in my heart. The smell of rain, earthy and electric, filled the air as I stood before the sprawling, crumbling estate that was my family's legacy. My fingers brushed the damp stone walls, the ancient ivy creeping toward the helix of my thoughts, infatuation, ambition, and the truth I both desired and feared to confront. Rebecca, Alaric's voice pierced through the heavy air, smooth yet charged with an urgency. I turned, my heartbeat thrumming in sync with the rumble of distant thunder, and found him striding toward me across the weather-worn grounds. His tailored coat flared slightly with the wind, an armor that seemed at odds with the tempest brewing above. "What do you want, Alaric?" I shot back, my tone edged with defiance. "Or should I ask what you've done this time?" His face tightened, shadows creeping into the corners of his mouth as he stepped closer, invading my space. "We need to talk before the storm hits." I could see the storm clouding his eyes too, but it was less about the weather than the turmoil nestled between us. I crossed my arms, mirroring the protective stance I found myself adopting more often. "Every time we talk, it's just more lies. I'm tired of this game. You've done enough to push me away." "Rebecca," he offered softly, though his words had a weight reminiscent of the gathering clouds overhead. "What if I told you that this is about more than just us?" "Then enlighten me," I shot back, barely able to contain the tempest within. Little did I know that the real storm was yet to come, both outside and in our hearts. "Your competitors at the auction," he began, exhaling deeply like he was preparing for a plunge into icy waters. "They've received threats, things that will shake their financial foundations. I made sure they wouldn't stand a chance." I felt my stomach knot. "You mean you sabotaged them? Alaric, I thought we were past this. You don't know what that could do to the estate." "It's for your father's legacy, Rebecca. Think about it. What's at stake?" he urged, his voice lowering deceptively. "We could take this back together." "And what about you?" I demanded, feeling the heat escalate with every beat of my heart. "Is this love, Alaric? Because it feels an awful lot like manipulation." "Love isn't easy," he barked, his vulnerability flashing through momentarily, but just as quickly retreating behind the wall he'd built. "You're the one who makes this hard." Thunder cracked in the sky, punctuating the tension between us. Everything around us vibrated with electricity. Nature itself seemed to scream for clarity. "I'm not going to be your pawn," I shouted, the fierceness of my voice rendering the surroundings momentarily mute. "You don't get to control everything just because you think it means you can keep me close." Before I could process his reaction, Alaric's expression shifted. Frustration morphed to desperation. He grasped my shoulders, his touch firm yet tender. "It's never been about keeping you close, Rebecca. It's about saving you." "From what?" My voice trembled, half keen with disbelief and half with longing. I could feel the warmth of his body against mine, a magnetism that both revolted and beckoned. "From this world of shadows, this web of lies." His intensity echoed around us, bouncing back against the ancient stone that sheltered our confrontation. "You deserve more than just your father's dying wishes. You deserve everything." The anger simmered and coiled inside me, but so did something else, an ache I couldn't ignore. "Then let me go," I hissed, the hypocrisy of my plea hanging heavy in the air. I closed my eyes briefly, battling the thick and surprising warmth pooling in my chest. "If you truly cared." His fingers tightened, anchoring me to my swirling emotions. "And lose you to this wretched estate? Never." "Alaric." Suddenly the lightning cracked, bright and drawn out, illuminating the tumultuous landscape and our equally tumultuous relationship. It was as if the heavens themselves were responding, wrestling our fate along with our souls. "I'm not a game to you." I couldn't stop the blurting words, each syllable blazing with unspent fury. not your puppet or your distraction. I'm not an option. You don't get to decide what's best for me." A wry smile broke through his tension, but it wasn't playful. It was something darker. "You think throwing a tantrum will drive me away?" I stepped back, shocked by his presumption, heart thundering. "Is that what you think of me? A child throwing a tantrum?" "Okay, maybe I didn't mean it that way," he admitted, the tension cooling slightly, though the fire still sparked in his eyes. "But you have to see." "See what? That you think you can fix me by breaking everything around me?" In that moment, as the wind howled and the rain began to fall, whisking away the tension in droplets on our skin, I knew there was something inevitable between us, something like a tempest, a love like a storm. "You know I won't let you go," he whispered, stepping forward again, closing the distance. "You can't walk away from what's between us." "Yes," I pled desperately, yet I felt my heart magnetically weakening from its defiant stand. "I wish I could be enough for you too, but I won't lose myself trying." "I don't want to lose you," he murmured, and for a fleeting moment, the anger gave way to vulnerability, raw and exposed. Yet I found myself caught in a snare, not of his making, but the very soul-bearing truths we were sharing. "Alaric, if you truly care, then stop thinking for me. I can handle my own battles. Even if it means fighting against me?" His tone dipped low, as if the prospect pained him. "I'd rather be alone than in a partnership built on lies." My voice trembled with the weight of everything we had tried to ignore and disguise. "I can't watch you in this home, becoming ensnared by the same ghosts that plagued your father," he replied, the words laced with fervor and something urgent, something that sounded like desperation rather than anger. "We are stronger together. Stop." I felt the plea as it leapt from my lips, and in that breath, the storm became me. "I'm not looking to be saved. I'm looking to be understood, and I want to know the truth of you, Alaric." "Then let me prove it to you," he offered, dark intentions masked behind a facade of sincerity. But I sensed a truthfulness to his chaos, a piercing clarity underpinning the lies. "Prove it? How?" I glared defiantly. "By throwing others under the bus to make an excuse for your truth? Or by saving you from joining them?" He spat back, frustration flooding his eyes with a desperate intensity. "Rebecca, you'll be judged by your associations. You can't escape that. We could be unstoppable. You don't get to decide what I need." "Then help me figure it out." Thunder crashed in the distance, rattling the ground beneath us. Rain began pouring, a torrent that mirrored the swell of emotion. My breath caught in my throat as droplets cascaded down my skin, clinging like desperate emotions we hadn't yet processed. A heartbeat passed before Alaric took a step back, putting a sliver of distance between us, only for the atmosphere to thicken, amplifying the fervor. "If you want me to choose between you and my past," he murmured, eyes narrowing like storm clouds, "tell me what you want me to say." The ache in my chest broke open with the wild intensity of a storm. "Maybe I want you to say that you can do this without me. Maybe I want the truth that even in this chaos, I need to stand for myself without forcing you away." His brow furrowed, but a flicker of something, understanding, determination, brushed across his features. "The truth is complicated," he said, voice raw, heavy with possibilities. "But I want to be with you, even if that's nothing more than a dream." The rain fell heavier, slashing through the agony and confusion tethering us down. I took another step back, and as if orchestrated, the world around us roared with the rise of the storm, washing away our defenses. "It doesn't have to be a contest," I murmured, every sense heightened by the chaos swirling around us. I had exposed my soul even in the storm. Now Alaric deserved to see the truth of what burned beneath my skin. And suddenly time felt suspended as he took my hand, guiding me away from our chaotic battleground, seeking refuge from the storm beneath the old oak tree that had weathered countless tempests. In the shadow of strong ancient branches, we were shielded as droplets danced angrily against the ground. Everything else faded, The world outside was a mere whisper as our embers ignited. "What if I don't let you go?" he murmured, his breath mingling with the humid air, warmth radiating from his body even as the rain soaked us. "I'm not sure," I said, my voice catching as I stole a glance at his eyes, troubled yet imploring. "But I know we can't ignore this tension, this longing that makes our hearts heavy with all that's unsaid." His gaze flickered with something primal, and before I could even fathom the implication, he pulled me into himself, our lips colliding in a searing kiss. Every desire spilled forth, the longing, the anger, the want. I melted into him as the rain pelted against our skin, carving pathways of warmth through the cooling droplets. In that embrace, there was a desperate urgency. I could feel him, the weight of his past intermingling with my fears as our kisses deepened, the world around us fading into oblivion. Anger unraveled into passion, jealousy dissolved into tenderness. And at this precipice, we forgot our fights, our misunderstandings, lost in the beauty of raw, expressive intimacy. Alaric's hand tangled in my hair as I pressed closer, torn between passion and the resolve of broken ideals. His touch ignited flames within me, a wildfire of emotion that swept through the storm, colliding with every core of who I was and everything that I desired. The storm roared above us, clouds writhing, but we were caught in another kind of tempest, a fervent embrace that felt blazing against the backdrop of chaos. "Rebecca, Alaric murmured through breathless kisses, moments that stretched between us like luminous threads binding two fractured souls. "Don't say it," I gasped, feeling the tug and pull of vulnerability amplified by the storm. "Let's be lost together for now." "Always," he whispered in reply, and I let those words envelop us as the storm raged wildly outside, mirroring the turmoil within our hearts. As the rain washed over us in sheets, it carried away the senseless layers we had built around ourselves, revealing the stark truth. It was something profound, something frightening, but something we could only navigate together. In the whirlwind of thunder and our unspoken past, I surrendered to him once more, knowing our story was just beginning. Chapter 16, Ashford Estate's Secrets. The morning sun pierced through the dusty, moth-eaten curtains of the drawing room, curling around the chandelier like fingers grasping for warmth. As I stood amidst the remnants of faded grandeur, wooden armchairs the color of aged brandy, and an ornate rug that had once coaxed laughter from my childhood, I felt the breath of the past ghosting around me. It grew thicker in the air while the muted echoes of the estate's history whispered secrets I was only beginning to unearth. With a tingle of anticipation spiked by trepidation, I picked up the dusty feather duster. The gentle scratch of its fibers against the worn surface of the coffee table resonated with a haunting nostalgia as I wiped away the years. Every flick was not just an attempt to tidy, but a necessary gesture of reclaiming my father's legacy. "Let's make you beautiful again, shall we?" I mumbled to the room, the absurdity of conversing with inanimate objects pulling a smile from my lips. It was a small act of rebellion against the dark void that threatened to swallow this estate whole. "Reclaiming your father's legacy, or just dusting off your personal museum?" a voice drawled from the doorway. I spun around to face Alaric, who leaned against the frame, arms crossed and eyes glinting with mischief. The morning sunlight caught the angles of his face, sculpting him into something more shadow than man. "Maybe a bit of both," I replied, forcing bravado into my tone. "You know, hobbies, child's play." Alaric pushed away from the doorframe, striding deeper into the room. "Child's play is what transforms into adult obligations. The plaything becomes the playmaker, something I suspect you know intimately." He stepped closer, letting the lingering scent of cedar and sandalwood engulf me, grounding the room in his presence. "But I see you aren't just dusting, you're investigating." "Is that what you call it?" I challenged lightly, letting my duster dangle from my fingertips as I eyed him defiantly. "I found traces of my father's life, which suggest everything here has a story. Every hidden room, every forgotten chamber, filled with the untold." He moved beside me, his warmth almost tangible, the air charged as if we were teetering on an edge. That's why I've been here so much lately, to help uncover and protect, he added, the last word hanging between us like a cautionary whisper. I hesitated. For a moment, I felt the hush in the room swell uncomfortably against me. Protect or control? You know just enough to make this all feel like a game. A complicated, dangerous game. Ah, Rebecca, the game is merely a reflection of life's intricacies. The more we unravel in this large, claustrophobic tapestry, the more we realize its threads are tied to us. His dark brows furrowed. You know I wouldn't wish harm upon you. Which harm? I shot back. Harm from the past or harm from your present? Sometimes I feel as if I'm just a pawn in your silent battle. Alaric's expression flickered, a flash of darkness that I could almost taste in the air. It is a battle, yes, but you misunderstand. Do I? I challenged, throat tight around the emotional waves crashing in me. My heart raced in a way I couldn't quite grasp. What I need is a little honesty. I'm surrounded by secrets, and just when I think I'm uncovering something real, I trailed off, the weight of my voice rebellious against the vulnerability. Then tell me what you wish to uncover, Rebecca. A challenge glinted in his cobalt eyes. Our secrets are intertwined. You know this. The tension wove around us like a thick fog, enveloping the room. I felt pinpricks of heat crawl down my spine, sparking warmth beneath my skin. How about the secret of what you're really doing here, with me? Why all the charm, Alaric? He stepped forward, closing the space between us. Charm is trivial compared to the urgency of need. He brushed a thumb along my cheek, barely there, yet electrifying. You need to understand the stakes. The real stakes. Before I could respond, an abrupt and loud bang echoed from a back room, the shattering silence spreading outside of us like the ripples of an impending storm. Could it be the old estate revealing yet another guardian of its mysteries, or a more tangible threat? Rebecca, stay here, Alaric said, his voice suddenly low and coated with intensity. I shook my head, making the decision even as I felt the push to retreat curling at my edges. I refused to be left behind, like a fading echo of someone else's life. Back and forth we tangled, the electricity thrumming between us, each of our desires straining toward the other, with each pulse, each moment where I dared take a step further into his world. All right then, he conceded, his mouth turning up beside a weary grin, but don't blame me if the darkness beckons. The door creaked ominously as we ventured toward its source. Inside, the small study had been shrouded in shadows. The only light filtered through a cracked window that barely illuminated the old oak desk. My eyes locked onto scattered papers thrown across its surface like fallen leaves. Documents of concealed truths. Let's see what lies beneath the surface here, I murmured. He leaned closer, eyes consuming the letters. Do you really want to face the outcome, Rebecca? Every word on those papers could lead to a secret worth uncovering, I asserted vehemently. If this place is to stand as my father wished, it must stand on truth. Then we're diving in together. Alaric was dangerously close now, the bold contours of his presence both a shield and a seduction. His voice lowered, an encouraging murmur, as he entwined his fingers with mine, leading me further into the depths. The air crackled between us, charged with every unsaid word. Our fingers grazed as we shuffled through the scattering of the past. An intercepted gasp sailed past my lips as my heart hammered against my chest, driven by the impending discovery, and by the proximity of Alaric. Rebecca, he whispered, with an urgent undertone, eyes locked on mine, searching for understanding. What if you unearthed something you weren't prepared for? I refuse to fear what I need to know, I asserted. This was beyond mere ambition. This was my heritage, my bloodline. There was also something else burning in me, fierce and heavy, igniting our proximity. If this estate is to mean anything, it has to reflect the truth of who I am, and that truth includes you. His breath hitched, and for an electric moment, time suspended. The air around us thickened, temperature rising as we drew impossibly closer. Then, I will stand beside you, whatever dark secrets may come. In that moment, the world around us faded, and I could only taste the heat of him, the promise of chaos that ignited in our skin. I leaned forward, seizing the soft curve of his mouth with mine. The kiss, warm and inviting, ignited a storm within, an infinite spiral of dreams, nightmares, and desires spilling out of us as we lost ourselves to the haze. It was fervent, tantalizing, sweeping me into a whirlwind of forgotten shadows and rosy ambitions. Alaric gripped my waist, pulling me closer, our bodies rocking in an intimate dance fueled by necessity. My skin tingled as his hands traced through my hair, anchoring me, urging me deeper. "See, this is the danger," he murmured, his lips brushing against my neck, sending tremors cascading down my spine. Finding one's truth can be exquisite and excruciating. Knowing what you want often leads you to chaos. "Then let's make chaos together," I returned, breathless, lost between passion and purpose. In the midst of dizzying discovery amidst the chaos, we spun together in that forgotten hour, secrets colliding with desires, haunting shadows against the backdrop of something profound, allowing the infinite tapestry of our truths to entwine. As we melted into each other's worlds and acknowledged the turmoil, it felt as if Ashford Estate breathed around us, a silent guardian watching our reckless dance. Nothing worth having, ourselves and the truth about our tangled pasts, ever comes easy. And yet, the richness of what lay ahead ignited a determination pulsing anew in my veins. With Alaric beside me, I was ready to face whatever shadows flickered beneath Ashford Estate's surface. The allure of danger awaited in the unwritten chapters to come, and with every kiss and fervent touch exchanged, I knew I would embrace it all. Chapter 17. Charismatic Rivalry. Is the art of seduction something you simply inherit, or is it a skill you polish over the years? Thomas Proctor leaned casually against the marble countertop in the kitchen, twirling a wine glass that caught the light like a precious gem. His easy smile seemed to stretch wide, one eye sparkling with mischief as he shot a challenging glance at Alaric. "Oh, I think it's more of a talent than an inheritance," Alaric replied, his voice low and smooth. He stood rigid, hands stuffed deep into the pockets of his tailored trousers, like a predator assessing its prey. I could feel the room constricting around us, as if the air itself wanted to witness whatever game of wit was unfolding. I should have laughed at the playfulness, should have swept away the tension brewing on the edge of my intuition. Instead, I stood dumbfounded, a spectator to a spectacle that was about to unravel into chaos. "Darling, you should be the one to teach," Alaric continued, ignoring my mounting insecurities. His gaze didn't waver as his attention flickered briefly from Thomas to me, a slight smirk dancing on his lips. That smirk had become sexy and overpowering, igniting suspense in me like a flame to kindling. "I feel like I'm being outmaneuvered here," I murmured, grinning in vain to mask the confusion settle within me. Jealousy slithered through the air like smoke, privy to unspoken tensions that lingered between Alaric and me, a bond somehow more tangible and fraught than words could convey. "Outmaneuvered? I thought we were just getting started," Thomas winked, unfazed and leaning even closer, the intimacy of his presence oscillating with the sheer distance I felt from Alaric. My breath hitched, my chest tightening, as I caught a flicker of something sharp in Alaric's eyes, a possessiveness that sent a thrill through me. The kitchen became our stage, with its sunlit windows revealing the sprawling gardens just beyond, the fresh scent of blooming lilacs mingling with the fine aroma of Alaric's coffee, undeniably soothing and disturbingly intoxicating. But the tantalizing aroma barely perked me up as I felt that charged air weave around us like a lingering yoke. "So, Rebecca," Thomas said, redirecting the conversation, "what do you think? How does one truly seduce an audience?" "Confidence, for starters," I said, emboldened by the wine coursing through my veins. "But the true art lies in understanding the subtlety, knowing what the other person craves before they do. It's about the dance between desire and restraint." "Very astute," Thomas replied, leaning in closer, his voice husked with intrigue. "And what happens when those desires bound from the mind into the flesh, Is it still a dance then, or a carnal battle? Do we need to be so dramatic? I chuckled lightly, but my heart raced absurdly as Alaric's dark gaze shifted to me. Friction crackled between the three of us, layered like a finely woven tapestry, each thread tugging at my thoughts and emotions with every passing moment. Drama is life, dear Rebecca. And if we're really going to play, Thomas declared, tapping his glass against mine, we must play for keeps. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, a sudden scuffle erupted as Alaric moved forward, crossing the space between us too quickly. This isn't a game, Thomas, he snapped, his voice dangerously low, void of humor. And for God's sake, stop playing with people's feelings. Oh no, I could feel the walls closing in, the distress swirling around us heavier than any wine. Alaric, I don't want to hear it, he interrupted harshly, storming toward the pantry, a storm brewing behind his brow. His chiseled features remained taut, as if each line carved held untold history laced with secrecy. He was a tempest, violent and breathtaking, and suddenly I was alerted to the dark distance creeping in, blue shades bleeding through his usually vibrant eyes. Alaric, I said, softening my tone, wanting to bring him back into my orbit. To harness again what was so magnetic between us. It's all in good fun. It's not fun if it puts you at risk, he threw back, his gaze flaring with pent-up intensity. Risk? What risk? I shot back, frustration boiling over. A dialogue I hoped would steady us only tossed me deeper into uncertainty. Thomas flared up at Alaric's outburst. Actually, I think your temper says more about your feelings for Rebecca than you'd like to admit. Alaric's eyes narrowed to slits. Stay out of this, Thomas. You hardly know her. Yet here we are, Thomas countered, coolly brushing off Alaric's simmering rage. Besides, she inspires confidence in me. Maybe you should pay attention. I felt the acute tension revamping the room. What do you mean? I need you both to simmer down, I exclaimed, launching between them with open palms. We're all adults here, and clearly you two have your own particular agreements on what you want. Alaric's response to my addressing him, he stood there, breathing heavily, so intensely that it sent shivers through me. I had to step quite literally in between these two forces, both of them silently challenging one another. Oh, Rebecca, darling, don't be so serious, Thomas teased, trying to lighten the mood as he leaned in close. You have to admit that tension like this can lead to thrills of the highest order. The veins in Alaric's neck bulged at his words, the heat in the room rising unbearably as my thoughts tangled. Somehow, I was now caught, and I had never longed so desperately to wrest free of this space. Let's take it somewhere else, I finally said, hoisting the energy toward a new bend. Let's go share our collective opinions among the art in the gallery. After all, it's waiting for us. I prefer more interactive discussions, Thomas chimed in, flashing a flirtatious grin in my direction. Maybe I can draw on your expertise then, I shot back, plunging deeper into conversational rivalries, even as the chemistry thickened, electricity buzzing beneath my skin. But with every casual joke and flirtation, I could feel Alaric's tension pulsing like a live wire. Enough, he snapped, the weight of his voice commanding both of us, waiting for my response. What? I asked, astonished at the intensity swirling around him. I'd rather have your undivided attention, Rebecca. Your focus shouldn't be fragmented, half on a rival and half on the art world. With everything at stake, I insist. The underlying urgency beneath his words carried a different honesty I had never encountered before. For a moment, the world shrank to just the two of us, Alaric's presence consuming and demanding, urging me to sift through feelings that had only shaken loose. I felt exposed, straddling two realms, one of flirtation and the other of undeniable chemistry, both trembling on the precipice of an unknown cliff. Just as the tension coiled tightly around us, I leaned closer, lowering my voice. Then maybe you should show me how to embrace that focus. Rebecca, he began, the low rumble of his voice rooted in warnings. Too late for warnings, don't you think? I slipped, my heart tearing open a fissure between us, one fueled by lust, uncertainty, and grains of bold courage. Turning my back on Thomas and that simmering rivalry, I found myself lost in Alaric's magnetic pull, the world outside fading to a dull buzz. Then, with a sudden surge, he turned to embrace me fiercely. I held my breath as he crushed me against him, a smooth warmth radiating beneath my skin, almost too delicious to bear. "You're so tempting, and you have no idea what you're doing, do you?" A shudder coursed through me at the weight behind his words. "Maybe I do," I teased playfully, before slipping my finger beneath his chin, lifting his gaze to mine. "And maybe I like it." But the moment grew heavy, as if we stood at the edge of an emotional precipice, a swirl of heat anchoring me closer to him. And then came the inevitable clash, his lips crushed against mine, what felt like an invitation to the very world I'd spent too long denying. "No more distractions." Alaric breathed heavily against my ear, his hands tightening around my waist, with a possessiveness hinted at only in fleeting moments. But as our lips locked, the playful tangle of bodies pushed boundaries, a wild dance of desire as I reveled in his intensity. Butterfly strokes across my flesh met the tangible strength of Alaric's embrace, a convergence built from both tension and longing, colliding together, breaking against one another like violent waves crashing against the shore. In him, I found the chaos and the calm, a fusion wavering just below the surface. "I need you, Rebecca, now," he murmured, threading fingers through my hair, pulling me closer still. I shivered as my back arched instinctively against the granite edge of our surroundings, the kitchen washing away as the world outside flickered momentarily out of focus. Then came a clipped breath on both our ends, just before we both savored that sweet, meaty collision where all rational thought slipped away. It was frantic and deep, a brilliant symphony of skin against skin, as we molded into something wild and intoxicating. Around us, colors blurred into one vibrant hue, all bets now forsaken as the tantalizing world of uncertainty fell behind us, lost beneath the thrust and pull of each heated caress. A sudden wave of pleasure coursed through me, obliterating all form of sorrow, while Alaric deepened the kiss, igniting a fire that had long smoldered. Undoubtedly, both of us were fervently aware of the risks accompanying each touch, every instinct coaxing us to forge ahead unrelentingly, to claim the remedy we sought. "Let it go," I whispered against his lips, pulling him to me so fiercely I felt any vestige of pretense fade away, leaving only the treacherous pull of need. "Together, then," he murmured, before kissing me deeply, and I smiled to myself, recognizing a powerful connection that needed no words, only relentless action. The world fell away as we fused into a swirl driven by passion, defiance, and a desperate simmering electricity. A sensation so beautifully chaotic, it broke open the very essence of what it meant to truly live. Perhaps the seductive game of rivalry was fraught with chaos, but oh, how it ignited something unyielding, something infinitely profound within me, intertwined deeply with Alaric. Love, I thought breathlessly, as desire eclipsed all rational thought. Love might conquer all, but it demanded our commitment. It beckoned bravery like a siren's call. And together, despite every obstacle, we would navigate this wild storm ahead. Chapter 18: Chaos of Renovation. The air inside the Ashford estate buzzed with chaos, the hum of power tools and the chatter of workers mixing in a cacophony that felt dissonant yet strangely invigorating.